Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Ninja School Teacher, I Can Become Stronger by Teaching. Chapter 1. I didn't expect that I didn't become a teacher after graduating from normal school, but instead traveled through time and became a teacher. After sorting out her memories, Lee Muyu complained helplessly in her heart. He felt that he really had a deep connection with the word, teacher. In high school, he was considered to be a good student in the art class, so many classmates would ask him questions, and he was nicknamed Teacher Yu. Then when he applied for college, he slipped all the way to a normal university, with the advice of his family. Then I chose the school's relatively strong teacher training major, and then I tutored my roommate in college and was nicknamed Teacher Yu. To everyone's surprise, when she finally graduated, Lee Muyu rebelled and became a civil servant instead of becoming a teacher. What he never expected was that on his first day at work, as soon as he walked into the office door, he would travel through time in the next moment and become the new teacher of the ninja school who just walked into the office. His current physical name is Hanyu Muyu, and his name is still the same as Muyu, but his surname is different. Oh, this is not a safe world. There are too many psychopaths and paranoid perverts, and they are also very strong. Muyu sighed in her heart. He casually observed the office. It was not much different from the office in the school in his previous life, but the sharp kunai placed randomly on the desk told him that this was no longer the peaceful country of his previous life. What makes Muyu feel even more bad is that he is not only a teacher, but also a ninja at heart. He was originally an orphan raised by Genbu since childhood. The reason why he became a teacher in the ninja school was because of Danzo's order, asking him to observe and record the students of the ninja school and pay attention to whether there are any geniuses. It's not a good place to be under Guiying's hands. Just as Muyu was thinking about how to survive in this dangerous world, an emotionless mechanical sound suddenly sounded in her mind, and a transparent blue panel suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. The teacher system is launched. Congratulations, you have successfully become a teacher. You can get rewards by giving lectures to students. The better the students, the higher the rewards. Excellent students can be recruited as disciples for one-on-one teaching, and teachers can receive rewards as their disciples' strength increases. P.S. Accepting a disciple requires the approval of both parties, and cannot be accepted unilaterally. Muyu studied the blue panel. Now there were only two options on it, one was personal template and the other was master and apprentice. Muyu clicked on the personal panel. Name: Hanyu Muyu. Age: 18. Chakra: 4,300. Skills: Free Body Technique, Fire Release How Fireball Technique, Fire Release Phoenix Fire Technique, Instant Body Technique, Konoha Fluid Technique. Evaluation: The elite among the Chunin are cannon fodder with a greater role in the war. After reading some heart-wrenching comments, Muyu silently closed her personal panel and clicked on the Master Disciple option. Maybe it was because she had no disciples yet, so it was all blank. Waiting for the school bell to ring, Muyu remembered that she had a class in the first period, so she packed her things and walked towards the classroom. Although she is a new teacher, since there are not many teachers in ninja school now, Muyu also became the class teacher, leading the freshman class. Muyu looked at the class list and saw several familiar people. There are Anko Midurai and Izumo the Steel God, two future Konoha Gate gods. When she saw Uchiha Shisui's name, Muyu's eyes lit up. This was an extraordinary genius. Since teachers can get rewards as their disciples increase their strength, the more talented the disciples must be, the better. Muyu adjusted her expression before walking into the classroom, and walked into the classroom with a sunny smile. The classrooms of the ninja school are designed in a special way, probably to make it easier for students in the back row to see clearly. The height of the students' seats is higher in each row and increases upwards. Muyu's arrival made the already noisy classroom fall into silence. After all, they are all 5 or 6-year-old children, and it is their first time to go to school. Most of them are curious and in awe of the existence of ninja teachers. Of course, there are some exceptions. For example, there was a little purple-haired girl with a single ponytail sitting in the front row who said carelessly after Muyu came in, "Brother, you are so good-looking. Are you our teacher?" Muyu smiled and nodded and replied, "That's right, this good-looking little classmate, I will be your homeroom teacher in the future." Hey, the purple-haired little girl who was praised for her good looks immediately felt that this blonde male teacher was a good person. The other students felt a lot more relaxed when they saw the interaction between the two. Although it was their first time to go to school, they had heard some relatives who went to school complain about the teacher being cruel. Miyu quickly walked to the podium and wrote her full name in chalk, then turned around and formally introduced. My name is Hanyu Mozuki. From today on, I will be everyone's teacher. I will ask for your guidance in the future. Okay, teacher, my name is Mitarashi Anko. The purple-haired girl was the first to respond. With Anko taking the lead, others responded to Miyu, and Shisui followed suit. Miyu felt a little disappointed when he felt that the system was motionless. He thought that he could accept Shisui as his disciple in this way. After all, it would be regarded as recognizing the teacher, but it failed because of a bug. Miyu did not show his inner emotions on his face. After everyone was introduced, he pressed his hands to signal everyone to quiet down. Before the lecture, let me ask you a question first. Do you know where Konoha came from? The classroom instantly became silent again. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing how to answer. Although Shisui, who has received education from the clan, knows a little bit, he doesn't like to be pushy and will not answer proactively unless he is called by name. It's built by people, Hongdu thought for a while and replied. It was indeed built by people, but what you want to know is who built Konoha and why Konoha was built. Miyu did not deny what Hongdo said, and continued to talk about Hongdo's words. Before the era of Ninja Village, there was the Warring States period with constant wars. During that period, even children as old as you might have to take up arms to fight. A tragic war might break out at any time. Speaking of this cruel history, Miyu's voice became deeper, directly placing the cruel reality of the Warring States period in front of the students. Maybe it's because the children in the ninja world are more precocious, or maybe because this is Konoha, many children feel the heaviness, and even the atmosphere of the classroom has changed. At this time, two families stood up, one was the Senju clan and the other was the Uchiha clan. Miyu's tone changed slightly, from low to passionate. I know, Lord Hashirama, the first Hokage, is named Senju. When Miyu mentioned Senju, the students immediately felt a sense of participation. They didn't know about the Warring States period, but Senju and the others still knew. Shisui felt a little disappointed when he heard that everyone was paying attention to Senju, but no one noticed Uchiha. He didn't quite understand why. They were all the founding ninja clan of Konoha. In order to protect the family's descendants, and so that children can fight without using weapons in the future, the two clans worked together to create Konoha, attracting more ninja clans to join, and finally ended the Warring States period. This is how we have Konoha now. Wherever the leaves dance, the fire will continue to grow. The fire will continue to illuminate the village and make new leaves sprout. It is the struggle of our ancestors who are not afraid of sacrifice that makes us who we are now and the ninja school that we have now. This spirit of selfless dedication is also our will of fire in Konoha. After saying that, Miyu's expression was a little serious, as if she was still remembering her ancestors. He thought that Shisui would be interested in a teacher who was familiar with history and understood the will of fire. So this is how Konoha came to be. I must pay homage to Hokage Rock next time I pass by. I will also become a will of fire ninja in the future and protect Konoha. The students below had already imagined in their minds how their ancestors fought bloody battles to win the country for them, and they all became excited and expressed that they also wanted to learn from their ancestors. Shisui's eyes also lit up, and he felt that this teacher seemed a little special, and he began to be more interested in the next life of the ninja school. Originally, he had heard from his family elders that the people in the clan who taught him at the ninja school had already taught him, and were planning to graduate early and go to the police department to help, but now it seems that this is not entirely the case. So do you know how many attributes of chakra there are? 5 kinds: water, earth, wind, thunder, and fire. The student from a ninja family quickly answered. That's not entirely true. There are 7 types of chakra attributes. In addition to the 5 basic attribute changes of water, earth, wind, thunder, and fire, there are also 2 special attribute changes of yin and yang. Miyu corrected with a smile. This kind of correction after asking questions can leave a deeper memory for students. Immediately afterwards, Miyu began to talk about the basic understanding of chakra, and from time to time he would tell a joke to amuse the children to make the students laugh. Time passed quickly, and 4 classes passed in one go. When the bell rang, Mu stopped and said with a smile. School is over, tomorrow we will talk about chakra refining. Mu announced the end of get out of class very directly and gave a preview of the next class. When they heard Mu say that school was over, the students were stunned for a moment, wondering if the class had just started. How could it be that school was over? Looking back carefully, it seemed that get out of class had already ended 4 times. Just because of Mu's guidance, they were serious and relaxed in class, so they didn't notice the passage of time. Refining chakra, I'm so looking forward to it. Hongdu heard Mu's words and couldn't wait to fast forward to tomorrow. None of her family members were ninjas, so they had no prior exposure to this kind of knowledge. Isn't it interesting to go to class? My cousin actually lied to me and said that school was difficult. When I got home, I told my aunt about stealing money to buy snacks. Gang Ziti looked indignant as if he had almost been deceived. Then wouldn't it be better if you just blackmail your cousin into giving you snacks? Azumo Kamizuki next to him expressed his opinion. Gang Zitai instantly showed an expression of enlightenment and patted Shenyu Izuyun on the shoulder, admiring. Brother, good idea. If successful, I'll share half of the snacks with you. Jesui looked at Muyu who was about to walk out of the classroom, thought about it and got up and followed. Lecture completed, settlement will be made. Evaluation. A. Using stories about ancestors to inspire students' sense of responsibility and enthusiasm, the lecture content is coherent and interactive, and students are highly satisfied. Reward settlement. Get reward. Perception ninja technique. Complete the teaching for the first time and receive the reward. Appraisal technique. Complete the tutorial rated A for the first time and receive the reward. Mastery of fire attribute chakra nature change. Mu was a little surprised to receive 3 rewards directly at once. He felt that there were suddenly many memories in his mind, the most of which was the memory of the practice of changing the nature of fire attribute chakra. That memory was so real that it gave Mu the illusion that she was an old ninja who had specialized in fire escape all her life. Teacher Hanyu, can I ask you a question? Shisui asked respectfully. After hearing Ji Shui's words, Mu, who was about to take another look at the panel evaluation, stopped, took Ji Shui to the back of the empty teaching building, and then used sensory ninjutsu to sense it. There was no particularly powerful chakra aura. Mu felt relieved and said with a smile, did you not understand that part of the class? Just tell me. Jesui shook his head and said, it's not the content of the lecture, but I have a doubt. Teacher, you know that the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan jointly founded Konoha, but why now everyone only remembers the Senju clan but rarely talks about Uchiha's contribution? Although he is a child, Shisui is extremely mature and sensitive. When he goes out with his elders, he can detect the strange looks from passers-by on the street when they see the clan emblem on their backs. They are all obviously responsible for building the village, so why is it that Uchiha is not only not mentioned for his contribution but also seems to be hated by the villagers? Shisui didn't quite understand. Looking at Shisui with a puzzled look on his face, Mu secretly complained in her heart, Senju Hashirama's reputation in Konoha is not the same as Uchiha Madara's reputation in Konoha. Can this be compared? You should have only read some of the history of the clan, right? Mu asked. Shisui nodded. All he could access now was the history given by Uchiha. The reason why it became like this is that a lot of things happened. It's difficult to explain clearly in a short time. Mu showed a look of embarrassment. Seeing that Mu was in a bit of trouble, Ji Shui felt guilty. It seemed that the problem was more complicated than he thought. Originally, he wanted to forget it, but Mu spoke again. That's all. If you have time after school, come see me and I'll tell you the history of this. Mu sighed. After all, I should be regarded as owing you a favor to the Uchiha clan, so I should repay the favor. Shisui was a little confused as to why Mu owed the Uchiha a favor, so he asked directly. My parents were surrounded by enemies during a war and were rescued by a ninja named Uchiha Kagami. Although they died in the subsequent war, I will always remember this life-saving kindness. Mu looked grateful. The nonsense. At this time, he was glad that he had become an orphan long ago, otherwise there would be much less room for performance. I have to admit that sometimes the dead are more useful than the living. Shisui's eyes widened, and an incredible expression appeared on his face. Uchiha Mirror was his grandfather. He didn't expect that he and Miyu had such a fate, and he had a very strange feeling. However, Shisui was not the kind of person who would repay a favor, so he didn't say anything and just thanked Miyu. Before Ji Shui left, Miyu gave Ji Shui an appraisal. Name: Uchiha Shisui. Chakra: 50. Potential: SS. Evaluation: 6-path bloodline, suitable for practicing fire escape and illusion, has great potential, recommended to be a disciple. As Miyu walked to the office, she sighed that he was indeed a fierce man who could open Susanoo with one eye. The 2 shining golden S's were so dazzling that even the system recommended him to become a disciple. Miyu opened her dashboard again to check whether the evaluation had changed. Name: Hanyu Muyu. Age: 18. Chakra: 4,300. Evaluation: proficient in the changes in the nature of fire attribute chakra. What limits your strength is your scarce chakra. If you can make up for this shortcoming, you can be called an elite Junin. It seems that the fire attribute change mastery is stronger than I thought. Miyu felt that she might have underestimated the value of the 2 words mastery. I thought it might just be equivalent to a Jonin's knowledge of property changes, but now looking at it, in terms of the property changes of fire attribute chakra alone, he may already be at the level of the 3rd generation. After all, he is a person who only knows 2 fire escapes, 3 kaijutsu and a little ordinary taijutsu. At this level, after receiving rewards and increasing his chakra, he can reach the level of an elite Junin. An elite Jonin must be at the level of Kakashi and Asuma at the beginning of the plot. Miyu was originally very happy that her strength had greatly increased, but when she thought that she still had a first-level identity, Miyu couldn't be happy anymore. First, he has a curse mark on his body, which makes him feel very insecure. Second, Danzo, the old Biden, likes to let his subordinates deliver it, which makes him even more insecure. We must quickly recruit some disciples and improve our strength as soon as possible. Even if we cannot reach the level of killing Danzo and leaving gracefully, we must have the ability to protect ourselves. Miyu set a short-term goal for herself. Miyu walked into the office and found 3 teachers sitting in the office, 2 men and 1 woman, complaining about their students. Miyu and they all knew each other because the teacher came in advance and Yuan she had been to school before and got to know her colleagues. Miyu conveniently gave an appraisal by herself. Name: Ikegaya Isamu. Chakra: 2000. Potential: C. Evaluation: Chunin cannon fodder. The data of the 3 teachers were similar, and they were all identified as cannon fodder by the system. Oh, I'm really unlucky. Why did the 2nd class of 4 years fall into my hands? I originally had a class of 3 years. Let me teach how. 1 Metkai and 1 Uchiha Obito, the 2 big crane tails, are all in the 2nd class of the 4th year. Kai Gaiong spread his hands helplessly. My family also arranged a blind date for me and asked me to meet them tomorrow afternoon. There happened to be a class for class 2 of year 4 that afternoon. Find a teacher who doesn't have classes to help, or just ask for leave. It's more important to go on a blind date, Aya Ueda suggested. At this time, Ueda Aya noticed Miyu coming in, smiled and said hello, Ms. Hanyu, how do you feel about your first class? Are the tips I taught you before useful? Miyu recalled that the enthusiastic female teacher was worried that he would be nervous for the first time as a new teacher, so she asked him to think silently about carrots and cabbage during the lecture. Miyu politely replied, "Thank you, the little trick is very useful, but after class, the students advised me not to be picky about food." Haha, Mr. Hanyu, you are so interesting. Aya Ueda smiled, thinking that Miyu was still in the mood to joke, so she should have spent the first time comfortably. Teacher Chigu, I have no class tomorrow afternoon. I can help you if necessary. Miyu put the lesson plan on her desk and asked like a good old man. Unlike other teachers, Miyu wished she had a full class every day, and there were Obito and Metkai in the 2nd class of the 4th year, so she had to take a look. Kai Gaiong showed a happy expression on his face, thanked him quickly, and said that he must treat Miyu to dinner if he has the opportunity. In the Hokage's office, the 3rd-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Miyu who was talking about the will of fire with a serious face in the crystal ball. He touched his goatee and felt that this young man with roots was pretty good and he was a person who understood the will of fire. Danzo thought he was hiding well, but in fact some of them were trained by the roots, but the ninjas who were not included in the root list have been known to the third generation. It's just that the third generation felt that Danzo was somewhat cultivating strength for Konoha, as long as it wasn't too much. However, in the ninja school, the third generation still attaches great importance to it, so he went to take a look in person. Unexpectedly, the first lesson of this root ninja was about the will of fire and established a sense of responsibility for the students. This made the third generation feel very good. Look at his next performance. If he is considered a talent, let him get away from his roots. Muyu's current performance is not enough for the third generation to go to Danzo to ask for someone. Although Danzo's possessions were essentially his, he still had to take care of his old classmates' emotions after all. Thinking of these three generations, they stopped using the telescope and started processing documents, preparing to inspect Konoha again in the evening. After Jesui finished eating, he started looking for Muyu's residence according to the location given by Muyu. Muyu's residence is in the southeastern part of Konoha where there are relatively sparse buildings. It is considered a remote area of Konoha, far away from the main city. Thanks to the relatively few buildings here, Shisui quickly found Muyu's home, a single-story wooden house located in a simple yard. As soon as Shisui entered the courtyard, he saw a scene that made him stunned and shocked. After returning home, Muyu went to the bathroom and stuck out her tongue in front of the mirror. As Muyu expected, there was a black curse mark on his tongue. This was the mark that every root member must have to eliminate tongue troubles. If Muyu remembered correctly, the effect of this curse seal is that as long as you say something related to a specific matter, your whole body will be paralyzed and unable to move. The curse seal set by Danzo naturally contains information about him in general. In this way, even if members of the organization are captured or rebel, the secret cannot be leaked. If that was all, that would be fine. He had no intention of leaking Gen's information to anyone, but Muyu was worried that Danzo could actively control this curse seal, which would be equivalent to a fatal weakness being controlled. Muyu thought carefully, trying to find a way to break the seal of tongue trouble from the original work. It seems that there is no other good solution except Danzo's death. But after thinking about it, Muyu discovered that no one in the original work could break this curse seal. Those who wanted to leave from the roots of the third generation might be released by the third generation's order. Others could only die if Danzo died and the curse seal would automatically become invalid. But Danzo is not the squishy AD in MOBA games. He will die suddenly even if you don't care about him in a group fight. Danzo, an old Yinbi, is very precious about his life. He usually stays at the base and doesn't go out. He may even have resurrection coins with him, which is really difficult to deal with. Muyu thought about her current strength and temporarily gave up the idea of killing Danzo. I can only go to Orochimaru or study it myself. Muyu found that she had only two choices at this moment. In fact, it can only be regarded as one choice, because Orochimaru is not available for the time being. Muyu glanced at the time and felt that it was almost time, so she activated the sensing ninjutsu and sensed Shisui was approaching. Muyu walked out of the door and walked into the courtyard. Shindao Danzo still trusted the original owner. He activated the sensing ninjutsu many times, but he did not sense that there was a root ninja watching him. When it felt like it was time for Shisui to walk in, Muyu quickly formed a seal, burst out chakra with all his strength, and instantly created a huge 8-meter-high fireball, which directly turned the training wooden figures in the courtyard into ashes, and also turned large chunks of the ground into ashes. Made a burnt ground. Zishui, who had just walked into the courtyard, happened to see this shocking scene and was shocked by Muyu's fire escape skills. Although the high fireball is only AC level fire escape ninjutsu, the level of the ninjutsu is only determined by the difficulty of the ninjutsu training. Many Uchiha Jonins like to use the high fireball. But Shisui is very sure that even the Jonins of his own family who use the fireball will definitely not have such power, because they cannot convert a large amount of chakra into flames in such a short period of time. Teacher Hanyu, I'm sorry to disturb your practice. Shisui, who had come to his senses, quickly apologized. It's okay, I just happened to be finished. Muyu took a long breath and invited Zishui into the room with a smile. Actually, The Uchiha becoming like this has a lot to do with your Uchiha's former clan leader, Uchiha Madara. Muyu poured 2 glasses of water, handed one to Shisui, and took the other in his hand, and began to talk. Uchiha story. You should know that Uchiha Madara has rebelled, right? Shisui nodded. The clan history says that the clan leader left Konoha. If it was really just about leaving, it wouldn't be like this. Muyu told Shisui that if Hashirama hadn't been strong enough, Konoha might have been destroyed by Uchiha Madara. Shisui fell into silence, but Muyu told Shisui that the matter was far from over. This incident made the second-generation Hokage Senju Tobirama, who did not like Uchiha, even more afraid of Uchiha. Therefore, after becoming Hokage, he formulated many policies specifically to govern Uchiha. These policies aroused dissatisfaction among the Uchiha Hawks and gave rise to the idea of seizing power by force. In the end, they were discovered by Anbu and imprisoned. These series of events eventually led to Uchiha's negative reputation gradually overshadowing his previous achievements, and he was disliked by the people in the village. Did so many things happen? Shisui found that he had thought of things too simply. Actually, there are Uchiha who are trying hard to change this situation. For example, Uchiha Mirror is the most successful among them. Muyu brought the topic to Uchiha Mirror. So Mr. Hanyu, what kind of person do you think Uchiha Kage is? Shisui suddenly wondered what his grandfather's image was to Muyu. He had never met his grandfather in person, but he had heard a lot from other tribesmen about powerful and talented ninjas. An Uchiha with the will of fire. He turned himself into a bridge to connect Uchiha and Konoha and ease the conflicts between the two parties. Muyu thought for a while and said. Although there were no boastful words in Muyu's words, it was what Shisui thought was the best and most appropriate comment he had ever heard. I also want to be an Uchiha like my grandfather. Shisui's eyes were firm, but he didn't realize that he had called his grandfather directly. Grandpa. Muyu looked at Zishui with some confusion. Only then did Shisui realize his gaffe. He just didn't want to repay the favor, and he didn't have a guilty conscience, so he admitted it directly. Hanyu-sensei, you don't have to pay too much attention to the so-called kindness. If you have time, go to your grandfather's tomb and pay homage. I think he will be very happy. Shisui said. How can I not repay the kindness of saving my father and my mother? How about this, Zishui, are you willing to become my disciple? Muyu asked. Zishui understood what Muyu meant, and he felt that this would be a huge disadvantage to Muyu. But he didn't want to see a good person like Muyu, who knew how to repay his kindness, suffer in trouble. In addition, Ji-shui felt that it would be good to be the disciple of a knowledgeable and powerful teacher like Muyu. In the end, Ji-shui nodded and shouted, Teacher Muyu. Whether to establish a master-disciple relationship with Uchiha Shisui. The system pop-up window came out immediately, and Muyu chose yes without hesitation. This was the genius disciple he had finally deceived. The relationship is established successfully, the current trust level is 2, and Return as Apprentice are unlocked. Muyu took a look at the introduction and was instantly pleasantly surprised. Returning as a disciple means that his disciple becomes stronger through practice, and he will also become stronger. The higher the trust level, the more feedback. Trust level 2 is double return, and Shisui increases. For 1 point of chakra, he can add 2 points. In return for being a disciple, he will give Shisui something, and the system will give him a random reward. The higher the trust level, the better the reward. It is limited to once per day. Muyu thought for a moment, then took out a pamphlet and handed it to Zishui. Inside was the Fire Attribute Chakra Nature Change Training Manual he wrote in the afternoon. Originally, he planned to find a suitable time to give it to Shisui to gain favor, but now he wanted to try the function of giving it back to his disciples. This is the Fire Attribute Chakra Property Change Training Manual that I summarized myself. Take it back and read it. I will check your training results regularly. As a teacher, I am very strict and will not relax my requirements just because of favor. Muyu said quite seriously. Zishui became stronger, but he could become twice as strong. Muyu felt that she had to supervise Zishui's training. Thank you, Teacher Muyu, I will practice seriously. Zishui thanked him seriously after taking the booklet Muyu gave him. Zishui didn't think there was any problem with Muyu's strict requirements. Instead, It proved that Mu Yu really regarded him as a disciple, rather than simply repaying his grandfather's kindness. Yu gave the disciple a training manual for changing his nature. Because the disciple was very grateful, he was rewarded with a critical hit and received the ninjutsu fire release and the dragon fire jutsu proficient level. The moment he received the reward, a large memory of him practicing the dragon fire technique appeared in Mu Yu's mind, as if he had practiced this ninjutsu thousands of times. The dragon fire jutsu is a B-level fire escape ninjutsu. Compared with the dragon fire ball, the dragon fire does not focus on range, but pays more attention to flexibility. You can freely control the fire dragon to attack the enemy. After mastering it, you can simplify the seal into one, and multiple fire dragons can be released at the same time. Since the system directly gave him the proficiency level, Mu Yu only needed to form a seal to release 3 fire dragons instantly. The way Mu Yu looked at Zishui was no longer looking at people, it was like an endless gold mine, the kind that could explode gold coins every day. Mu Yu noticed that it was getting dark outside, so she said, "It's getting late. I'll take you home. Don't let your family worry." "Thank you, teacher. I'll just walk back slowly by myself. I'm the only one at home now." Shisui waved his hand and said. He felt that he had already troubled Mu Yu today and was not willing to waste Mu Yu's time anymore. Hearing Ji Shui's words, Mu Yu remembered that Ji Shui's parents seemed to have never appeared. They probably died not long after giving birth to Shi Shui. Only then did he realize that it was impossible for the master and apprentice to find a single parent. "But my uncle will come to take care of me from time to time," Shui explained because he was afraid that Mu Yu would be worried. Mu Yu nodded and did not force him to give it away. Today was just the first day he and Shui met, and there would be many opportunities to gain favor in the future. On the way home, Shui flipped through the training booklet Mu Yu gave him, and then recalled the fire escape ninjutsu he saw when he entered the yard, and became more curious about Mu Yu. As a well-known child prodigy in the clan, and his grandfather was an Uchiha mirror, Shisui had come into contact with many powerful Uchiha people, and his vision far exceeded that of other people his age. He felt that with Mu Yu's strength, he shouldn't be a chunin, and it was strange to stay in a ninja school as a teacher. The ninja school didn't need such a strong teacher, and the ninjutsu only taught the 3-body technique. Mu Yu looked at Shisui who was gradually going away, and her heart became more and more looking forward to tomorrow. He has classes in the morning and afternoon tomorrow, and he doesn't know what rewards he can get. Moreover, Matkai Obito and his class have classes in the afternoon. What level of potential do the two of them have? "Brother, how is the situation?" "It's not good. My hateful cousin actually threatened me that if I told him about it, he would tell the neighbors Meihui about my 3-year-old bedwetting." Gangzati gritted his teeth and scolded his cousin. Evil deeds. How could the matter between the two of them involve the neighbor's little Meihui and ruin his glorious image? It's really abominable. I have a plan. I will take advantage of my young age and use it as an excuse to go to your cousin's house and mess up your cousin's room. Although you made the mess, if you don't clean it up in time, your cousin will be unlucky in the end. This has happened several times, how dare he be so arrogant? Shenyu Izumo thought for a while and came up with another clever plan. Gangzati's eyes immediately shone, saying that with Brother Izumo's advice, he would be as invincible as the first Hokage with Tobarama's advice. If he succeeded, he would definitely treat him to snacks. As soon as Mu Yu entered the classroom, she heard the conversation between the sleeping dragon and Phoenix Chicks, and couldn't help but smile. "Start class." Mu Yu walked to the podium and started class directly. Chakra is the prerequisite for us to launch ninjutsu. It is produced by the combination of physical energy and mental ability. Most of the students in the audience listened very carefully. After all, this is the most important foundation. While explaining, Mu Yu occasionally released chakra herself for everyone to experience. During the lecture, she also tried her best to intersperse jokes and stories so that the class would not be boring, and she also asked questions to deepen their memory. The 4 classes were coming to an end soon. When get out of class was about to end, looking at Hongdu who was smiling and asking questions, Mu Yu gave her an appraisal. Name: Mitarashi Anko. Potential: A. Mu Yu thought for a while and gave all the students in the classroom an appraisal. Name: Gangzati. Potential: B. Name: Kamizuki Izumo. Potential: B. Yu was surprised to find that excluding Shisui, there were only 4 students in the entire classroom who had achieved B or above. Apart from Anko and the other 3, there was only one student whom he had no impression of, who was also a B. The others were all C, with the better ones barely getting a C+. There are C and even Ds. Looking at it this way, Shisui's talent is so strong that it completely eclipses others. Hongdu's potential was also a bit beyond Yu's expectations. He remembered that Hongdu's original work was not very strong, but the identified potential was several levels higher than the 2-door gods. However, Yu has no idea of accepting Hongdu as a disciple for the time being. He cannot accept unlimited apprentices. Currently, there are only 4 apprenticeships. One is taken by Shisui, leaving only 3. Although lowly Anko is very cute, Yu said that he is still handsome, so what's the use? Will Danzo let him go because of this? Obviously not. Lecture completed, settlement will be made. Evaluation. A. Reward. The art of multiple shadow clones. This ninjutsu is pretty good, but it's a pity that it's not very effective on me now. Yu thought to herself. As the ninjutsu used by the protagonist Naruto from beginning to end, multiple shadow clones are naturally a very practical ninjutsu. If you have enough chakra, it is very useful in both fighting and training. But what Yu was lacking now was chakra, so there was nothing she could do. After eating, I walked into the office. Several teachers were giving advice to Ikea Young, who was about to go on a blind date. A tall and thin male teacher reminded, "Be sure to tidy up before meeting, and dress more formally. Don't let others think you are a sloppy person. Sugido, you are looking down on me. Although I have never been in love, this is common sense." Ikea replied confidently. "I think the most important thing you need to pay attention to is not to talk big like this when chatting." Aya Ueda seemed to have foreseen the final outcome, shaking her head and said, "Ueda, just wait and see." When Ikea saw that Aya Ueda actually looked down on him, he immediately put down his harsh words. I'll wait and see." Aya Ueda responded perfunctorily, and immediately talked to Yu after noticing Yu coming in. "Mr. Hanyu, you are so awesome. I took a look at your class when I passed by it today and felt that the atmosphere was very good. I can't believe this is your first time as a teacher." Yu shook her head and said modestly, "Everywhere, your experience is put to good use and the students are obedient." Although he knew these were modest words, who didn't like to be praised? A smile appeared on Aya Ueda's face, and then she gave some of her snacks to Yu. When Ikea saw this, he immediately felt what it meant to be treated differently. He and Aya Ueda had been colleagues for 2 years and had not eaten her snacks even a few times. Internally complaining to Aya Ueda, Ikea Isamu also quickly said hello to Yu. If he can succeed this time, he will remember Yu's kindness as a substitute teacher for the rest of his life. Yu responded to everyone with a smile, and after chatting for a few words, she picked up the pen and ink she had prepared in advance and started practicing calligraphy. Practicing calligraphy in his free time was one of the few good habits he had in his previous life, and he developed it after taking a calligraphy class in college. Ninja school has a short time at noon, so there is no time to find a place to practice. When it felt like class was about to begin, Yu tidied up and then headed to the classroom to prepare for class. Jingle bell bell. When the bell rang, Yu happened to walk into the classroom of Class 2, Grade 4. "Hey, isn't it Mr. Iketani's history of Konoha this afternoon?" a student asked when he saw that it was not Isamu Iketani who walked in. "Teacher Kaiji is busy this afternoon, so I will take the class this afternoon." Yu walked to the podium and explained. As soon as Yu finished speaking, a hurried figure rushed into the classroom. "Hoo, teacher, I'm sorry. I met an old lady on the way and helped her, so I'm late." Obito put his hands on his knees and panted heavily to explain. "Sit down and listen to the class." Yu nodded and said, then glanced at the students and appraised them all. Name: Nohara Lin. Chakra: 300. Potential: B+. Name: Matt K. Chakra: 600. Potential: S. Evaluation: suitable for practicing physical arts, recommended as a disciple. Name: Uchiha Obito. Chakra: 650. Potential: S. Evaluation: 6 bloodlines, sometimes space talent, recommended to be a disciple. The second class of the fourth year is similar to his first year class. Apart from these three acquaintances, only one Uchiha Tiehuo has A-level potential, and the others are basically C-level and D-level. After reading the talents, Miyu asked about their class progress and then started teaching. For students who are accustomed to teachers who read from the textbook, a teacher like Miyu comes as an unexpected surprise. Obito said directly, "Teacher Miyu, what you taught is great, much better than other teachers. If you teach me from now on, I will definitely pass. I will tell Mr. Chigu, along with your lateness," Miyu said with a smile. Unlike other teachers in the ninja school, he had systematically learned how to be a teacher. Obito immediately turned bitter and begged for mercy. Isao Ikia was their class teacher. Obito's behavior in tandem made the class a little more joyful. During the class break, Miyu activated the perception ninjutsu, and after confirming that there was no problem, called Metkai and Obito out. "Hanyu-sensei, please don't tell Ikea-sensei." Obito continued to beg Miyu without giving up. "Then it depends on your performance," Miyu said with a smile, without giving a specific reply. "Teacher, what's the matter?" Metkai scratched his head and didn't understand why he was called out. He didn't make any mistakes. Miyu looked at Metkai. This man who almost kicked him to the end and was called the strongest in physical skills by Madara is still very immature. Although he has put on the iconic green tights, not to mention his strength, his confidence is still far behind. At this time, although Metkai also believed that he would definitely become a strong physical martial artist through training day after day, he still did not fully understand what his father said about youth and self-restraint. He still needed to grow up, and Miyu was happy to help me during this time. "Your theoretical scores trouble Teacher Chigu very much," Miyu said. Hearing Miyu's words, even Obito, who was more arrogant, lowered his head in embarrassment. "It's not that I don't want to learn, but the question is too difficult to understand. Why do we have to keep those animals together to count how many there are?" Obito tried to quibble. Seeing Obito like this, Miyu recalled the time when he was studying mathematics in high school, and could only say that it was fortunate that his major did not require advanced mathematics. But Miyu knew that it was actually Obito's problem, because the mathematics taught in the ninja school was the simplest kind, and the courses were relatively few, not as much as history. "But it's not just mathematics you're bad at. You're not good at anything like history or ninjutsu theory." Miyu shook her head and said, "What's the use of knowing that history? Isn't it all over?" Obito felt that the history class should be cancelled. Mathematics might still be useful when shopping for groceries. "What's the use of history?" "I think so too." Metkai nodded as if he could not memorize that history. "You have to tell the third generation about this. He is the principal of the ninja school." Miyu said that he did not mean anything in this regard. "But there's no way you can continue like this. It won't be good for Teacher Chigu or you. Mr. Hanyu, do you have any secrets for taking exams?" Obito looked at Miyu expectantly. Metkai also looked at Miyu excitedly. If he didn't really know how to do it, who would want to be the tailgater? "It is indeed the secret to the exam, that is to study the questions while reading them." Miyu told her secret. Given the intensity of the ninja school exam, he only needed to use a little experience in taking exams from his previous life to pass easily, because the ninja school exam requires only half the class average to pass. Quick question. The two of them looked confused and didn't quite understand. "You can use this as special training for the exam, and if you pass the exam, I will reward you," Miyu said with a smile. "What's the reward, a dumpling?" Obito asked curiously. "I can teach you ninjutsu or taijutsu. In short, I can guide you in your practice," Miyu replied. "Really?" The two people stared wide-eyed, unable to believe that such a good thing fell from the sky. "The premise is that you can pass the exam in 1 month," Miyu reminded. As this youth, I'm on fire. Metkai was a little excited. "I will definitely pass this time," Obito promised. Looking at the two people who had been mobilized, Miyu nodded secretly in her heart. Advanced hunters often appear as prey. The two of them felt that they had made a lot of money, they had obtained the secret to passing the exam, and they had been rewarded with practice guidance. And Miyu only needs to naturally become their teacher during the special training process to make money. Even if the two of you fail in the end, it doesn't matter. Miyu can say that seeing how hard you work so hard, I feel sorry for not giving you a reward, and maybe you can gain more favor. The reason why he didn't trick him into accepting a disciple like he did with Shisui was that the background was not suitable and it was not easy to talk about repaying a favor. The second reason was that Miyu only came to teach a class and could not maintain contact for a long time. It would be easier if he was the class teacher. After finalizing the special training with the two of them, Miyu took them back to class. Obito, why did Mr. Hanyu ask you to go out? He didn't punish you, did he? Nohara Lin asked worriedly. How could it be punishment? Mr. Hanyu is so kind. He taught me the secrets of exams. Obito immediately rectified Miyu's name. As long as Miyu can help him get rid of the title of the last one, Obito can become the number one moon blower in the ninja school. Lin, you should pay more attention to the class and don't let me surpass you in the next exam. Obito chuckled. It would be great if you could really surpass me. Nohara Rin looked at Obito and showed a helpless smile. Although she couldn't get the first place, she was still ranked among the top. After the class bell rang, Obito showed an unprecedented serious attitude. He must pass this time, and he had already started studying what ninjutsu to learn. Nohara Rin was a little surprised when she saw this scene, wondering if Obito was serious this time. 3 minutes later, looking at Obito lying on the table, Nohara Rin could only say that Obito was still the Obito she was familiar with. At this time, a piece of chalk hit Obito's head in a beautiful parabola. Obito looked around with a blank look on his face, saw Miyu's face, saw Nohara Lin's face, and saw Metkai who was writing furiously. Thinking of what he said 3 minutes ago, he couldn't help but look a little rosy and lost. Feeling sleepy. After getting through the episode where Obito was sleeping, the rest of the class went smoothly. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Reward. Konoha Whirlwind. This time the reward was not ninjutsu but taijutsu, and it was developed by Metkai in the future. This physical technique seems very simple, just kicking, but Miyu, who has already initially learned it, found that it is not as simple as imagined. The kicking posture, the explosion of muscles, and the explosion of chakra all require skills. Miyu was worried that he would have nothing to teach Kai then, so he was very satisfied with the reward. After school, Miyu wandered around the forest south of Konoha, looking for a suitable place to practice. After all, he still has a basic identity, and Danzo must know the location of his family. With the level of Danzo's dislike for Uchiha, he knew that Miyu taught Shisui ninjutsu without reporting it, which made him suspect Miyu of betrayal. Although it is said that there is sensory ninjutsu, it cannot be turned on all the time, and chakra does not support it. So Miyu planned to take Zishui to practice outside in the future. In the end, Miyu found a small river with a nice and remote environment, which was suitable for practicing. Miyu wrote down this location and went home. Facts have proved that Miyu's caution was not in vain. After entering the courtyard, he found a ninja wearing an animal mask standing in the courtyard. Yi, this is the latest instruction from Lord Danzo. The root organization ninja handed Miyu a scroll. Miyu nodded and took the scroll. Yi was his code name in the root. The two did not communicate much. The Gen organization ninja handed the scroll to Miyu and quickly left. Miyu was considered a secret move by General. It would be bad if the Anbu discovered too much contact. Before the root organization ninja left, Miyu gave an appraisal. Name: Ping Shoes. Potential: B. Chakra. 7,000. Evaluation: a Junin with some strength. Looking at the chakra of up to 7,000, Miyu couldn't help but feel a little envious. He didn't even have 5,000, and he was 5 or 6 years behind Shisui. After the sensory ninjutsu could no longer detect the root organization ninja, Miyu walked into the room and opened the scroll to see what latest order Danzo had issued. Uchiha Shisui in your class is a genius of the Uchiha clan. Pay attention to his actions, confirm his character, and evaluate him. After reading it, Miyu felt a little emotional. Danzo's fear of Uchiha was really close to pathological. Shisui is only 6 years old this year and has just entered ninja school. For such a child, just because he was known as a genius among the clan, Danzo asked him to pay attention to and evaluate him. Of course, it is not ruled out that Danzo has thoughts about Shisui and wants to bring him to his roots. But Muyu doesn't think Danzo's idea can be realized. The third generation will let Danzo know who is the Hokage. The third generation can tolerate the existence of root tissue, but cannot tolerate the existence of an overly powerful root tissue. The upper limit of a genius Uchiha is too high, God knows how far he can grow. Therefore, the genius Uchiha can either stay in the Uchiha clan or join the Anbu. After reading it, Muyu used fire release to destroy the scroll. This new instruction is still within Muyu's acceptance range. In fact, even if Danzo does not send anyone specially, Muyu will report that Shisui is a genius when making a report. Because Muyu felt that with Danzo's attention to Uchiha, there was no point in hiding it, and it would only draw fire to himself. Muyu separated a shadow clone and asked the shadow clone to practice ninjutsu, while his body began to practice to improve chakra. At present, chakra is his biggest shortcoming. No matter how many ninjutsu he has learned, no matter how proficient he is, it will be difficult to exert his power without enough chakra. No matter how strong a ninja with little chakra is, there is only a limit to how strong he can be. No matter how weak a ninja with more chakra is, he can't be much weaker. It can be said that chakra determines the upper and lower limits of a ninja. The next day, since there was no class for him this morning, Muyu took advantage of this time to come to the ninja school's reference room. He wanted to sort out the test papers for the 4th grade exams in recent years. Since the process went smoothly, he also found the 1st grade papers. His main purpose is to recruit disciples, but it is not an empty promise to improve the theoretical performance of the two. Muyu did some research and found that the questions in the exams every year are not much different. Each question is of the same type. If the statement or data is changed, some papers have exactly the same questions. Muyu nodded, feeling confident that the two of them would pass. He felt that there was no need to study the questions and just let the two of them do the papers from the previous 2 years. Passing the test should not be a problem. After Muyu took a few papers, she left the reference room and went to the office. She was listening to me all yesterday and was obviously very interested in me. Is there a possibility that she just doesn't want to talk to you? When I paid yesterday, she took the initiative to ask for an equal share. She was already thinking about me. Is there a possibility that she is afraid that you will use the excuse of treating each other to make another date? As soon as Muyu entered the office, she saw Ueda Aya arguing with Ikeya Isamu. Muyu looked at Kimura Shanto, who was watching the show next to her. Didn't Yang go on a blind date yesterday? He was just talking about his blind date process and wanted us to help with some ideas for chasing someone. However, Ueda felt that his blind date was not interesting to him and advised him to find another one. Kimura Sugito. A brief introduction to the cause of the matter was given. Hanyu-sensei came just in time. Do you have any special skills for chasing girls? Seeing Muyu's arrival, Ikeya asked quickly without bothering to argue with Aya Ueda. He felt that Muyu looked like the kind of person who had many girlfriends. Special technique. I think it should be enough to make the other party feel your sincerity. Muyu thought for a while and said. Whether he has any skills or not is another matter. Muyu would not tell Chiguyong that is not what his character should be. Sincerely, Kai Guyong looked troubled. How to make the other party feel this thing? Give up, Ikeya, you don't even know what Hanyu-sensei looks like. His useful skills may not be useful on you. Aya Ueda said quietly. How is that possible? I admit that Hanyu-sensei is indeed a little more handsome than me, but it's not that much different. Ikeya said unconvinced. You really don't look back until you hit the wall. Aya Ueda looked at the stubborn-looking Isamu Ikeya with a headache. She is a woman herself, doesn't she understand women? After hearing Chiguyong's words, she knew that this blind date was in vain, but Chiguyong refused to believe it. Come on, Muyu encouraged with a smile. What else could he say? As a friend, Aya Ueda couldn't persuade her. And Muyu really hopes that Kai Guyong will be busier so that he can go to the second class of 4th year as a substitute teacher again. Teacher Muyu still has the vision, Ueda, just wait and see. With Muyu's encouragement, Ikeguyong became more confident. During the afternoon class, Muyu made a small attempt and deliberately lowered the quality of his lectures. He speculated from previous system reviews that lecture ratings should be divided into 2 parts, one is the quality of lecture content and the other is student satisfaction. He wants to get a B-level evaluation because there is an extra reward for getting an A-level evaluation for the first time. By analogy, there should be additional rewards for getting a B rating for the first time. Lecture completed. Settlement in progress. Evaluation. B. Reward. Chakra plus 2.0. Complete the teaching with a rating of B for the first time and receive a reward, mastering the changes in chakra form. A large number of memories of the transformation of his chakra forms appeared in Mu Yu's mind instantly. Mu Yu was a little surprised. In the chakra system, form changes can exist alongside changes in nature. Both parties can effectively strengthen ninjutsu. Although the form change only reaches proficiency but not mastery, it is not limited to chakra attributes. Speaking of form changes, we have to mention the Rasengan that Naruto rubbed from beginning to end. The Rasengan can be called the representative ninjutsu of form changes. It has great power without adding changes in nature. It's time to develop the Rasengan. Mu Yu plans to develop this useful A-level Muji ninjutsu on his own. With the detailed training process in the original book, and his knowledge of form changes, the process should not be too difficult. The chakra given by the B-level evaluation also made Mu Yu think more about future classes. She felt that she could get some B-level evaluations in the future. It was not much given at one time, but the little she added made a lot. After adding the development of Rasengan to her schedule, Mu Yu found that her life was extremely fulfilling now. He usually attends classes during the day, teaches Shisui in the evening, practices and develops ninjutsu on his own at night, and provides special training to Metkai and Obito on weekends. His schedule is full. Mu Yu really wanted to maintain such a peaceful life and grow steadily for a few years. It's a pity that he didn't travel to a good time, so he was destined to have a hard time enjoying a quiet life. On the fourth day after Mu Yu traveled to the ninja world, a piece of bad news came back to Konoha from the front line. The friction on the front line escalated and a conflict broke out. Kumogakure dispatched ninja troops into the country of Yu, which borders the country of fire, and the figure of the eight-tailed Jinchuriki seemed to appear. When Mu Yu heard the news, she knew that the Third Ninja War was not far away. In other words, it has already begun, but it has not yet fully erupted. As a root ninja, the original person still knows a little more than ordinary ninjas. Since White Fang committed suicide last year, undercurrents have begun to surge in the ninja world. Whether it is Kumogakure, Iwagakure or Sunagakure, they are all ready to move. When Mu Yu was just watching anime, he only felt that White Fang was no different from other famous and powerful people. But after he accepted the memory of the original owner, he understood the value of the title White Fang. Unlike others who were famous for tying or defeating a well-known strongman, White Fang was famous for killing, extremely efficient in killing. Holding a chakra short sword, you can directly transform into a ruthless lawn mowing machine on the battlefield. No matter you are a genin or a junin, you will be finished with a flash of white light. It's not that White Fang's strength has surpassed everyone else and is the strongest in the ninja world, but his fighting style is particularly suitable for torture. Anyone weaker than him can easily be killed by him in an instant. Seeing that Konoha has lost such a strong man, other ninja villages will naturally covet him. Especially Kumogakure village and Iwagakure village, because these two ninja villages suffered very little losses in the Second Ninja World War, and now they have developed enough to challenge the first place. Those hateful Kumogakure ninjas, can't they just calm down? It feels like they're going to fight again. Aya Ueda sighed. If Lord White Fang were still here, they would definitely not dare to be so arrogant. Kai Gaiong said with some annoyance. It's okay. We still have the third generation and Lord Orochimaru, and we will definitely be able to win as before. Kimura Sugito wanted to liven up the atmosphere. If a war breaks out, will our teachers also receive combat missions? Mu Yu asked the question she was most concerned about. He didn't want to leave the ninja school. Although he could become stronger by practicing on his own, there was no point in cheating. Depending on the intensity of the war, if it is too intense, some teachers may be organized into various units according to their specialties. Aya Ueda replied. After hearing what Aya Ueda said, Mu Yu could only pray to God Daozu in her heart, hoping to draw him later, or not to draw him at all. Because the Third Ninja World War between Konoha and the other four major ninja villages can be said to be extremely fierce, and the power of the ninja school teacher will definitely not be let go. Miu Yu was not afraid of going to the battlefield. What he was afraid of was going to the battlefield before he had grown up. This third ninja war is really extremely dangerous. First of all, the 5 major ninja villages are fighting with their lives, and then Uchiha Madara and Black Zetsu are secretly planning. You don't have to worry about this, Mr. Hanyu. We are the #1 ninja village. There is no way that we will have to fight all our teachers on the battlefield. Kimura Sugito has enough confidence in Konoha. It's not that I'm worried about going to the battlefield, I'm just asking so that I can be ready to fight when the time comes. Miu Yu said with a smile. Although I don't want to think about it, I definitely can't say this. Miu Yu stopped talking and started practicing calligraphy. She didn't walk towards class 1 until the bell rang. Miu Yu looked at the inside of the classroom from the door. The clouds of war did not affect the children's joy, and the classroom was full of joy. Brother, how did my clever plan work? Did you manage to keep your cousin in check? 2 days had passed, and Shenyu Izumo was curious about Gang Zitai's results. Oh, don't mention it. It's good for brothers to make plans, but my cousin is too cunning. After I acted according to your plan, he actually took the exact same action as me. Gang Zitai said with a depressed look. It did work well at first, earning his cousin a scolding from his aunt, but what he didn't expect was. Before he took the next step, his cousin directly responded with the same treatment as others. He was a child, and his cousin was only 1 year older than him, so he could be considered a child. The end result was that the two of them were scolded and beaten each other, and in the end they had no choice but to cease the war and jointly declare this poisonous plan as a forbidden technique that cannot be used. There is such a cunning person. Shenyu Izumo sighed with emotion. Your cousin is so cunning, I can't think of any strategies for a while. Shenyu Izumo said apologetically. It's okay, brother Izumo, you have helped me with several ideas. You can also tell me about your troubles and I will help you share them. Gang Zitai was ready to repay the favor. I have a crush on a neighbor girl, but I don't know how to get closer to her. Shenyu Izumo hesitated, but finally said it. It's not easy. Just give her something she likes. Gang Zitai suggested. Shenyu Izumo thought about it and thought it made sense. I see that she often looks at my flower garden when she passes by my house. She must like flowers, and they don't seem to grow flowers at home. Then send flowers. She will definitely be very grateful to you. Gang Zitai affirmed. Ahem, let's start class. Miu Yu coughed twice to remind everyone that class has started. The originally noisy classroom suddenly became quiet, with only the sound of Miu Yu's lecture. Although we have only been together for 4 days, everyone likes Miu Yu, a teacher who teaches in a relaxed and interesting manner and who is consciously obedient. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Reward. Water escape water formation wall. Seeing the name of this ninjutsu, information about the water formation wall flashed in Miu Yu's mind. This is a B-level water escape ninjutsu. The effect is to create a wall of water blocking the front. It is worth mentioning that Tobarama's water formation wall is different from others. Tobarama's water formation wall directly draws a circle of 360 degrees with no dead ends to protect himself. Looking at the sudden extra knowledge in her mind, Miu Yu found that she had mastered the changes in the properties of water chakra that she had never known before. Miu Yu thought about it. If he didn't give him some knowledge about nature changes, he wouldn't be able to use water escape at all. Miu Yu silently gave the careful system a thumbs up. After school, Miu Yu took Zishui to the small river in the southern forest that she was looking for a good training location. How Fireball, you have practiced well. Today I will teach you a new fire escape ninjutsu. Miu Yu said about today's training plan. After speaking, Miu Yu clapped her hands, and instantly opened her mouth and spat out 3 huge fire dragons. Under Miu Yu's control, the fire dragons spun around in the sky and then submerged directly into the water, evaporating a large amount of river water, causing the river surface to continuously roll out white water vapor. The dragon fire technique. Shisui recognized the fire escape at a glance. He had seen Uchiha Jonin perform this ninjutsu. It was precisely because of recognition that he was even more surprised, because Miu Yu actually spit out 3 fire dragons in one breath and only formed 1 seal. Zishui became more and more curious about Miu Yu's strength. Watch it, I'll demonstrate it to you again. Miu Yu knew that the effect she wanted was achieved when she saw Jisui's expression. The difficulty of this ninjutsu is to instantly compress a large amount of chakra into the shape of a fire dragon. Miu Yu demonstrated while talking to Jisui about the release techniques of the ninjutsu. It just so happened that Miu Yu had recently obtained the proficiency level chakra form change, and Miu Yu also told Jisui a lot about the operations of chakra form change. I see, I probably understand a little bit. Jisui nodded, ready to give it a try. Jisui's palms flew quickly to complete the seal, and the chakra in his body exploded, then compressed and shaped. Fire release. Dragon fire technique. Jisui opened his mouth and spit out a 1-meter-high fire dragon that rushed towards the sky, spun around in the sky and submerged into the water. Snap. Miu Yu smiled, stopped applauding and said, I thought you might have to try a few times to succeed, but it seems I still underestimated your talent. Miu Yu was really surprised. She didn't open the Sharingan for copying. It was too fast to learn AB level ninjutsu all at once. Is this the gold content of the double S talent? It's teacher Miu Yu who taught me well, Jisui said humbly. He did not deny that he did learn things faster than ordinary people, but he also really felt that Miu Yu's teaching was very serious and good. Except for Miu Yu, who only used one seal during the first demonstration, she performed the complete seal during the rest of the demonstrations and slowed down the speed to accompany the explanation. And I can't say that I have learned it now, I just can use it. Thinking about Miu Yu's dragon fire, Jisui felt that he was still far away from learning it. He was far behind in terms of the size and number of fire dragons. Then let me demonstrate to you the dragon fire technique that I have learned a few times. Miu Yu said with a smile. He was very satisfied with Jisui's humility and diligence. Looking at the chakra on the panel that was rising day by day, he knew that Jisui was not idle when he returned. Time always flies by when you are serious. When Jisui was immersed in Miu Yu's teaching, the sky had quietly darkened. When Jisui released the dragon fire, he noticed that the fire was extremely bright, and then he realized that it was almost dark. He couldn't help but have a wonderful idea in his mind. Teacher Miu Yu's gentle voice could be some kind of ninjutsu technique that could make people forget the passage of time. Teacher, I'm going back. Jisui and Miu Yu said goodbye and prepared to go home. I have recently summarized my experience in practicing chakra form changes. Please read more when you go back. Miu Yu took out a booklet and handed it to Jisui. Jisui paused for a moment, then took the pamphlet from Miu Yu and bowed to thank him. Although he didn't say many nice words, Jisui already respected Miu Yu even more in his heart. He felt that Miu Yu was very good as a teacher. Although they had only known each other for 4 days, Miu Yu never held back anything. The more important things were, the more important they were taught to him first and never kept secretly. Looking at Jisui's leaving figure, Miu Yu raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. It was indeed his strongest gold mine, and he had exploded something good again. You gave the disciple a form change training manual. Because the disciple was very grateful, he was rewarded with a critical hit and obtained the ninjutsu wind release pressing proficient level. A large number of techniques regarding wind escape and pressure appeared in Miu Yu's mind instantly. At the same time, he also had some knowledge about the changes in the properties of wind chakra. Miu Yu was very satisfied with this reward. The ninjutsu of wind release. Pressure is very strong, and it is considered the top one among wind release. It has a large range and strong destructive power, and it can also be linked with his fire release ninjutsu. Moreover, the change in the wind attribute given by the system is also conducive to his development of the Rasengan. Originally, he was planning to develop the changes in the fire chakra properties of the Rasengan himself. Since there was wind, he would definitely develop the Rasenshuriken first. After these few days of exploration, Miu Yu has probably figured out the mechanism of apprenticeship and return. The reward is affected by 2 aspects. One is the quality of the thing he gives, and the other is the disciple's gratitude for the gift. The latter is more weighted. The next day, he gave Jisui a bunch of snacks, and the system gave him 10 shurikens. On the 3rd day, he gave Jisui the food he made by himself, and the system gave him 50 points of chakra. They are all food, and the rewards on the 3rd day are obviously better. Obviously because the 3rd day is more hearted, Jisui likes it more. After figuring out the mechanism, Miu Yu began to plan to make Jisui explode. He planned to look at Zishui's information when he went to school tomorrow and find out when Zishui's birthday was. The 5th day of traveling through the world of Naruto. Miyu originally had only one class today, but as a result, a 3rd grade teacher in the office was busy and needed someone to take over the class. Miyu would not let go of the opportunity to help others. 2 lessons, one obtained 20 chakras, and one obtained a high fire ball. This was the first time Miyu had acquired the ninjutsu he knew, but what surprised him was that the repeated ninjutsu system directly increased the ninjutsu training experience. If it were a game, his should be a fireball with 1 life, or a strengthened fireball with 1 life. Ms. Hanyu, you are too talkative. If you act like this, other teachers will definitely ask you to take your place. Aya Ueda said with some worry. Miyu thought to herself that if there was such a good thing, he would really like it. We're all colleagues, it's okay, and I also like teaching students. Miyu said with a smile. Ueda Aya didn't know what to say for a while, because she looked at Miyu's expression and felt that Miyu really meant what she said. She felt very dreamy. Do such good people really exist in the world? Taking a substitute class without a salary increase is equivalent to working in vain. Time quickly came to the weekend. Ninja school was similar to his previous life, with classes on Mondays and Fridays and weekends off. Because of the previous agreement, at 8 o'clock in the morning, Miyu took Obito and Metkai to the place where he and Shisui were practicing and started special training. Why do you have to get up so early during the holiday? Obito wailed while lying on the desk prepared by Miyu in advance. Morning, I think it's okay. Metkai scratched his head, unable to empathize with Obito. Miyu sent the papers prepared in advance to the 2 of them. This was Miyu's own paper based on their teaching progress. Because they had only been in class for 5 days, they couldn't directly take last year's monthly examination papers. And for the situation of the 2 of them, Miyu was not going to let them overcome the difficult problems, just get the easy points, and passing was enough. Teacher Miyu, this is. Not long after, Shisui, who was about to practice, arrived. He saw Obito and Kai, who were struggling to make papers, with very confused expressions. They are 4th grade students. I am giving them tutoring. You can practice yours without getting in the way. Miyu explained. It was no coincidence that Shisui came over, he was the one who called him last night. As for the purpose, Miyu thought it would be interesting to see senior students doing boring papers while watching junior students practicing ninjutsu. Obito, who was working on the problem, couldn't help but raise his head when he heard the conversation between the 2, and then froze. He recognized Shisui. The Uchiha clan lived together in the clan areas divided by Konoha, so people of the same generation knew each other to some extent. After all, they all belong to the same family. Even if they have never met, they have heard of it from others. For example, geniuses like Shisui often appear in the mouths of their parents as other people's children. It is difficult not to recognize them. Obito was a little confused as to why Shisui appeared here and seemed to be very familiar with Miyu. As Mr. Hanyu a distant relative of Shisui, Obito had an unreliable conjecture in his mind. Teacher, I'm done. While Obito was thinking wildly, Metkai next to him suddenly shouted out of anger. So fast, Obito was confused. He remembered that he didn't stop for long. Why did Metkai suddenly say he was done? Obito looked curiously and saw that Metkai had taken the first 3 multiple-choice questions and left the rest blank. Obito didn't know what to say for a while, because the entire paper only had 10 questions, 4 with 6 choices to answer. Although he doesn't know many questions, he will choose to fill the test paper a little more to make it look better. After hearing what Metkai said, Miyu came over and helped Metkai check whether they were right or wrong. 2 questions were wrong, and only the first question was correct. I'm sorry, teacher, Metkai looked at the questions that Wizen had done and got 2 questions wrong. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. It's okay. It's normal if you don't know how. If you know how, you don't need me to teach you. Miyu comforted with a smile. Don't just think about it just because your score is low. Think about it from another perspective. You have a lot of room for improvement. After all, it is definitely easier to improve from 5 points to 25 points than from 80 points to 100 points. Hearing Miyu's words, Metkai's body shuddered. For the first time, he received encouragement other than from his father, who had always been treated as the tail of a crane. Teacher, you were right, I have a lot of room for improvement. Metkai suddenly became full of momentum. Miu Yu's next explanation was listened to by Metkai very seriously. Even if it was difficult to understand, he tried his best to understand. Next was Obito. Obito filled in 6 questions, but only 2 of them were correct. Miu Yu also treated Metkai the same way, comforting him first and then talking about the topic. After speaking, Miu Yu took out 2 more test papers of the same type and handed them to the 2 of them. We still have to do it. Obito looked at Shisui, who was starting to practice fire escape and couldn't take his eyes away. Fire release how fireball technique. Shisui quickly formed seals and instantly spit out a 2-meter-high fireball flying toward the river. Looking at the huge fireball, Obito was very convinced, thinking that he was indeed a famous genius in the clan. As an Uchiha, he also knows the classic ninjutsu of fireball. But regardless of the size or power of his giant fireball, compared with Shisui, it can only be regarded as a small fireball. Is he a genius like Kakashi again? Although Metkai didn't know Shisui at the side, he looked at Shisui's figure and appearance. He was only 6 or 7 years old at most. He was really surprised that he could use such a powerful ninjutsu. This reminded Metkai of Kakashi, whom he considered his old enemy. Ninja school has a 3-semester system. The first semester is from April to July, followed by summer vacation. The second semester is from September to December, followed by winter vacation. The third semester begins after the winter vacation. Kakashi didn't even finish the second semester, so he directly applied for early graduation and passed it. One can imagine his genius level. At this moment, Shisui gave Metkai the feeling that he was Kakashi of the same age. Immediately afterwards, Shisui began to practice the dragon fire jutsu. Seeing that Shisui actually knew other fire escape ninjutsu, Metkai was even more surprised, because he had been practicing the 3-body technique taught in school for 3 years, and felt that he had learned it reluctantly. Seeing Shisui controlling the fire dragon flying in the sky, Obito was very envious. If he could do this, he would definitely impress Lin. It can be seen that the form changes have been greatly improved compared to the first time. The fire dragon is faster. You must have practiced a lot when you went back yesterday. Miu Yu commented and praised. The main reason is that Teacher Miu Yu, your training manual has been of great help to me. Hearing Miu Yu's praise, Shisui smiled and said, let me demonstrate it to you again. Miu Yu walked in front of Zishui, clapped her hands together, and the chakra in her body quickly gathered and compressed. In an instant, she opened her mouth and spit out 3 huge fire dragons. Looking at the 3 huge fire dragons burning fiercely, Obito was a little dumbfounded. A second ago, he thought Shisui's dragon fire was very handsome, but after Miu Yu's dragon fire came out, Obito's opinion changed. It's not like the 2 of them are using the same ninjutsu. The fire dragon released by Shisui and the one released by Miu Yu are simply the difference between a snake and a loach, and why are the speeds too fast? It feels like there is no seal. 3 huge fire dragons flew rapidly in the sky, leaving lines of flames in their flight paths, eventually forming several large characters in the sky. Stop looking, hurry up and do the questions. Obito read out the words in the sky, and then found Miu Yu looking at him with a humorous smile. Obito was startled for a moment, and then explained. I'll just wait and see when I get tired. He looked at Metkai out of the corner of his eye and found that Metkai, who was watching with him, had already picked up a pen to do the questions in an instant, reacting very quickly. Have you seen enough now? Miu Yu asked. I've seen enough. I've seen enough. Obito also quickly picked up his pen and started doing the questions. After working on the questions for a while, Obito couldn't help but stop writing and asked, Hanyu-sensei, what is your relationship with Shisui? What do you think is the relationship between teacher and disciple? Miu Yu glanced at Metkai's paper and replied. I also feel like a master and a disciple. Obito did not express his unreliable guess at the beginning. Hanyu-sensei, if I pass the exam, can you teach me the ninjutsu you just used? Obito continued to ask. He was already thinking about how to show off his new ninjutsu with Nohara-rin, in other words, he was about to open the champagne. Of course, Miu Yu nodded. Really? Obito looked surprised. Real, Teacher Hanyu, what kind of physical skills have you mastered? Metkai looked at Miu Yu expectantly. Although he also thinks that Muyu, who releases the dragon fire technique, is very handsome, Matkai has a clear purpose. He only practices physical skills. Muyu did not speak, but walked to a big tree, concentrated chakra on her feet, tensed her muscles, and then kicked out her whirlwind kick at extremely fast speeds. With a snap, the tree quickly fell to the ground, stirring up a burst of dust. Do you like this physical technique? Muyu put her feet away and patted the dust, then looked at Matkai with a smile. Looking at Muyu's extremely fast and clean whirlwind legs, Matkai's eyes lit up instantly, and he felt like he had encountered the love art in his dreams, which fulfilled all his fantasies about physical arts. Simple, fast, powerful, and handsome. I like it, please be sure to teach this when the time comes. Matkai expressed his satisfaction with Konoha Tornado with great momentum. As long as you like it. Muyu smiled and nodded. Matkai's reaction was what he expected. After all, this taijutsu was developed by Matkai himself in the future, and he also developed a whole series. It's strange that he doesn't like the big whirlwind, and various Konoha whirlwinds. After receiving Muyu's assurance, Obito and Matkai were very happy, and they felt much more comfortable looking at the test papers that usually gave them a headache. Look at my full firepower, I will definitely fight more than 4 this time. Obito was so excited that he was gearing up, and those who didn't know it thought he was going to fight. Be sure to deal with more than 3, otherwise we will run 500 times around Konoha tonight. In order to learn the love in dream technique, Matkai became ruthless and directly used self-discipline. After he planned to learn this taijutsu, he would go to Kakashi to compete with him to see how much his strength had improved. But the sudden enthusiasm went away quickly. After doing a few questions, Obito understood a truth. If he was pushed into a hurry, he might be able to release a larger fireball, or he could throw 5 shurikens into the bullseye in one go, but there was nothing he could do about the problem if he was in a hurry. He supported his head with his hand and kept playing with the pen in various postures with his other hand. He was so upset that he couldn't even look at the green leaves swaying in the wind. He felt like he was laughing at himself for not being able to solve the question. Obito couldn't help but look at Matkai next to him. Although he and Matkai have been classmates for more than 3 years and have a common friend with Kakashi, they have never actually played together and their relationship is very ordinary. They are not strangers, but they cannot be called friends either. They can only be called friends of friends who happen to be classmates. When he thought of Matkai, his first reaction was the tail end of the crane. Although he is also known as the tail of the crane, Obito thinks that he is just a bit partial. His ninjutsu, shuriken and throwing are pretty good, but his theory is particularly poor. It's just that other Uchiha are too powerful and are excellent in all courses, which makes him, an imperfect Uchiha, seem like a loser. But Matkai is different. Matkai is not good at theory or ninjutsu. He is ranked last in most courses and is recognized as the last one. But at this time, Matkai showed better patience than him. Even though he was scratching his head due to difficulties, Matkai was still working hard to overcome the difficulties. Obito thought of the heroic words Matkai once made when he was laughed at. I believe that if I keep working hard like this, I will become the strongest taijutsu ninja. Although Obito was not one of the people who ridiculed him, when he heard this, he didn't think that Matkai could become the so-called strongest in taijutsu. But now he has changed his mind. It's hard to say whether he can become the strongest taijutsu ninja, but he should be much better than those who laugh at Matkai. It might be nice to be friends with him, Obito muttered, so that they could deal with that nasty Kakashi together. Watching Matkai keep doing the questions, Obito also began to write furiously, racking his brains to think. Muyu looked at this scene with a thoughtful expression. He didn't expect that these two people could have such a chemical reaction together. Obito, who was originally impatient and couldn't sit still, was so affected that he could calm down and do the questions. In the future, similar means can be used to stimulate Obito's cultivation. After the two of them were done, Muyu helped them correct it. Obito got 3 right, and Matkai got 2 right. Oh, there are still less than 4. I've tried my best. Obito lay on the table and looked like he was burned out. Plus 500 laps for running at night. Matkai added the punishment of failure to his exercise plan. Seeing this, Muyu consoled her. You are actually only 5 questions away from passing the exam, and it only took you 1 hour to improve on 1 question. Think about it this way, it's a lot better. Obito Metkai thought about it, and it seemed to be the truth. The passing and ninjutsu were just around the corner. After comforting Miyu, she took out 2 papers again with a smile. Obito looked at the brand new test papers on the table, and then thought about the 3 weekends left before the exam, and couldn't help but feel dark. But I can only pick up the pen and continue working hard, because if I give up now, the previous papers will be in vain. At this time, Shisui, who had recovered his chakra, began another wave of fire escape exercises. Fire dragons kept flying in the sky, attracting Obito's attention. Hanyu-sensei, after we learn your ninjutsu, are we considered your disciples like Shisui? Obito asked after thinking for a while. If you want it, then so be it. Miyu replied ambiguously. Hehe, since we are all disciples sooner or later, why don't you teach us now, teacher? Obito suddenly revealed his purpose. Miyu cast a suspicious look. Although this was the result of his deliberate layout, your map of Yan Kingdom is too short. Obito patted his chest and assured, Teacher Miyu, it's definitely not that I don't want to study anymore, but I think these two can be done together. After Obito finished speaking, he pulled Metkai next to him and said, K, you mean that, right? Teacher, I think Obito is right. Metkai also wanted to learn Konoha Whirlwind early so that he could compete with Kakashi. What if you fail the test then? Miyu asked instead of rushing to agree. When the time comes, teacher, you can do whatever you say, and I will listen to you. Obito was still very confident that he would pass. Me too. Metkai nodded and added one. Is that so? Miyu showed a tangled expression, as if she was still hesitating. Teacher Miyu, just trust me. I will definitely learn from you and not embarrass you. Obito continued quickly when he saw something was going on. Me too. Metkai also clenched his fist and promised. Well, I believe you can do what you say. After you finish this paper, I will teach you the Dragon Fire technique and the Konoha Whirlwind. Miyu looked like she was convinced. Great, I knew you were the best, Teacher Miyu, and I will definitely not betray your trust. Obito said excitedly. He felt in his heart that today was really his lucky day. He improved his theoretical scores and got a great teacher for free, which made him a lot of money. Teacher Miyu, I will definitely work hard to practice your physical skills. Metkai said seriously. He also felt that he was really lucky today to meet someone who was willing to be his teacher and teach him physical skills. Whether to establish a master-disciple relationship with Uchiha Obito. Whether to establish a master-disciple relationship with Metkai. Looking at the 2 pop-up windows that popped up, Miyu showed a satisfied smile. Yes, you guys made a lot of money. Chapter 11. Relationship established successfully, current trust level 2. Relationship established successfully, current trust level 2. Looking at the level of trust, Miyu nodded secretly. It was not in vain that he spent so much time disguising himself as prey to seduce. Miyu feels that it is quite difficult to improve the trust level. It should take time to grind. If the trust level is 1, the initial income will be much lower. 2 disciples with potential S or above will receive skill professors. Professor, the knowledge you impart is easier to absorb. A very simple and crude skill, but also very powerful, is to increase the effectiveness of lectures and teaching. Miyu tried it, and it was still a passive that could be switched on and off. But for something like this that is harmless, Miyu naturally chooses to keep it open, unless Danzo one day sees that he is teaching well and asks him to teach at the root, then he will shut it down. The only thing that disappointed Miyu was that the number of apprenticeship returns did not increase due to the increase in disciples, and was still once a day. He also thought about making some food for Shisui and he would explode 50 chakras. He cooked food for his 3 disciples every day, and he was guaranteed to increase his chakras by 150 a day. This was much faster than finishing classes. The result was that he wanted to too much. However, if there are 3 disciples, even if there is only 1 chance, it will be better than just 1 person. Because people's emotions have a threshold. With gradual stimulation, the threshold will gradually increase, and it will not be so easy to be moved and win the big prize. If there are 3 people, they can take turns to blast the gold coins. Not only will the number of big prizes increase, but it can also slow down the growth of the emotional threshold. Besides, the current growth rate is not bad. Miyu thought to herself and glanced at her panel. Name: Hanyu Muyu. Age, 18. Chakra, 4405. Skills, Fire Release, Dragon Fire Technique, Water Release, Water Formation Wall, Wind Release, Pressure, Professor. Compared with when he traveled back in time, Muyu had a total of 105 chakra points improved, of which 90 points were obtained through classes and apprenticeships, and the remaining 15 points were obtained through his own training and apprenticeship. This is only the result of Muyu's 5 days, because most of Muyu's rewards are various ninjutsu. If Muyu brushes all his chakras, he will be guaranteed a minimum of 100 chakras just by attending classes in a week, not counting the rewards for being a disciple. But Muyu feels that at this stage it is better to brush more A-level rewards or brush AB in half. The ninjutsu rewarded by the system lectures are all learned directly, and they are not preliminary learning, they are directly mastered and can be used in battle. If it is a ninjutsu that he has not mastered the attributes of, it also has its own nature changes, and the experience will be increased when repeated, which is really considerate. If he had to spend time practicing those ninjutsu, it would take a lot of time. How to find a training method was also a problem. But as he mastered more methods, Muyu felt that he still needed to develop more chakra. After all, chakra was the foundation of ninjas. Teacher, I'm done. Obito, who wanted to learn new ninjutsu quickly, completed the test paper with 120% seriousness. I'm done too. Metkai reported not to be outdone. 2 people. Muyu was glad that this was Hokage, and the clone technique was very bad. Muyu created a shadow clone and said, first go and explain the principles of Konoha Whirlwind to Kai, and then demonstrate it several times. Because one of them learned taijutsu and the other ninjutsu, Muyu could not teach them together and could only create a shadow clone. He was going to teach Obito ninjutsu first with his body, and his clone would explain it to Metkai. After half an hour of teaching, switch it around. The main body will teach Metkai, and the clone will teach Obito. Muyu will not be a person's intimate teacher, he will give his warmth to every disciple. Just like how he taught Shisui, Muyu explained it in detail, which can be called a step-by-step tutorial. You taught your disciple the fire release and dragon fire technique. Because the disciple was very grateful and rewarded the critical hit, he obtained the ninjutsu water release and water dragon bullet technique proficient level. Muyu fell into thinking. He remembered that he also taught Shisui Haolong fire. Why didn't he count the return as a disciple at that time? He thought of a reason. His dragon fire was erupted from Shisui. It may be that the rewards erupted from the same disciple cannot be used to teach disciples and return further rewards. Muyu silently memorized this hidden rule. Don't be that kind of water dragon bullet with 44 seals. Muyu couldn't help but complain in her heart when she thought of Kakashi and Zabuza's water dragon bullet. It may be cool to watch anime with the seals like this, but in reality, it is generally difficult to release ninjutsu that requires so many seals, unless there is someone around to help contain it. The proficiency level of the system did not disappoint Muyu. He only needed 6 seals, and if he continued to practice, the more proficient he became, the more the seals could be streamlined. After teaching Obito for half an hour, Muyu went to Metkai to give him guidance and let the clone teach Obito. After both of them have finished teaching, they will also give guidance to Shisui, constantly moving among the 3 of them. At noon, Muyu personally went down to the river to catch 4 fish, then lit a fire and grilled them, 1 for each person, as lunch. It's so delicious. Teacher Muyu, if you open a barbecue restaurant, the business will definitely be very good. Obito praised while eating. Shisui and Metkai seemed to nodded. Be careful, don't eat the fish bones. Muyu smiled and shook her head. Is it tasty? Muyu thought it must be relatively ordinary, because he really didn't have barbecue skills and rarely barbecued. The reason why I find it delicious is that the atmosphere is good and the senses are blessed. Ji Shui usually lives alone at home, and rarely eats with so many people, even in the wild. Obito usually eats with his grandma, and Metkai eats with his father. In addition, I have never eaten this kind of grilled fish, and it feels novel. With many blessings, the originally ordinary grilled fish has become delicious. After eating and resting for an hour, Muyu and the 3 of them began to continue practicing. Actually, this ninjutsu is not difficult. Obito looked at the round fire dragon he released and felt a sense of accomplishment. This was much smoother than his previous practice of the giant fire ball. It happened that Shisui was also practicing dragon fire and spit out a fire dragon. Looking at Shisui's ferocious-looking Charmander with its mouth full of fangs, Obito silently controlled his cute little Charmander to hide behind him. Metkai, who had kicked his tornado leg countless times, wiped his sweat and was about to stop and rest when he happened to see this scene. Perhaps because of the shared adversity in the morning, Metkai walked over and comforted him. It's okay, the fire dragon is small and cute, and sooner or later it will become as powerful as Teacher Muyu. Although it was comfort, for some reason, Obito felt an inexplicable aggravaveness, which made him very uncomfortable. This feeling of suffocation made Obito, who had originally wanted to take a rest, instantly regain his energy and begin to continue practicing the art of dragon fire. Seeing that Obito was so motivated, Metkai was unwilling to rest for a while and quickly continued to practice. These two seemed to get along quite well. Muyu, who had been watching from the side, was a little unable to hold back. He found that Obito and Metkai really had something to say together. After practicing until it was time for dinner, Muyu asked them to go back to their homes and told them to continue tomorrow. On Sunday, after practicing for another day, the disciple returned 50 points of chakra. In the morning, Gangzi woke up, quickly washed up, ate breakfast and rushed to school. You didn't get up very early today, why are you in such a hurry? The old mother beside asked in confusion. Of course, go to school early to study. Gangzi replied without looking back. This was just a perfunctory lie to his mother. Although Gangzi didn't hate going to school, he didn't like it very much either because not all teachers taught as lively and interesting as Muyu. The reason why Gangzi is really anxious to go to school is that he urgently wants to know if his good brother Kamizuki Izumo has taken the first step in love. He gave Kamizuki Izumo the idea on Thursday, but on Friday Kamizuki Izumo said he didn't dare to do it and wanted to think about it. Gangzi Tiekshun thought that 2 days over the weekend should be enough to brew it up. When Gangzi Tai arrived in the classroom, there were not many people there, and Shenyu Izuyun hadn't arrived yet. However, Shenyu Izumo didn't keep him waiting for long. About 7 or 8 minutes later, he saw Shenyu Izumo walking in listlessly. Izumo, did you not sleep well yesterday? Gangzi asked doubtfully. Shenyu Izumo shook his head. Did you send the flowers out over the weekend? Gangzi asked enthusiastically. Oh, don't mention this. After hearing Gangzi's words, Shenyu Izuyun's expression became even more depressed. She visits our flower garden not because she likes flowers, but because she is allergic to pollen and is worried about the pollen being blown over. Gangzi was silent for a while after hearing the news, and then asked, did you send those flowers? Shenyu Izumo did not answer Gangzi's words, but the silence and the resentful expression on his face had silently answered Gangzi's question. Gangzi patted Shenyu Izumo on the shoulder and comforted. It's okay. I remember that the girl who played with Mehui was quite cute. How about we play together some other time and get to know each other? That's great, brother Tai. Shenyu Izuyun swept away the dull atmosphere and said with a smile. I thought of another clever plan over the weekend to help you deal with your cousin. That's great, please tell me what kind of clever idea it is. Classes begin. Muyu's voice reached the ears of the two of them, and they realized that class had already started. They were too absorbed in chatting that they didn't pay attention to the class bell. So the two of them hurriedly sat down and started listening to the class. They were still thinking strangely since they hadn't attended Muyu's class for 2 days. Muyu did not disappoint them. The class was relaxed and comfortable, and she had a lot of knowledge in her mind without even realizing it. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Reward obtained. Water escape water breaking wave. Seeing that the reward was water breaking wave, Muyu's eyes instantly lit up. This ninjutsu was not simple. This is the water release developed in the 2nd generation. It can spray out ultra-high pressure straight water jets. It is so powerful that it can even cut off the roots of the sacred tree. Muyu was in a very good mood when she shipped the goods, and another good thing happened soon. Teacher Muyu, I remember that you don't have class in the afternoon. Can you help me take over the get out of class? I have a ninjutsu class in the afternoon for class 2 of 4th year. In the office, Kai Gyeong walked to Muyu and hoped that Muyu could help him teach again. There is no problem with the substitute teaching. Teacher Chigu, are you feeling unwell? Although she was happy to have another reward to get, her character still had to be maintained. Muyu asked with a worried look. My body is fine. Thank you, Mr. Hanyu, for your concern. Chigu Yang first thanked Muyu and then explained. It's my previous blind date. I asked her to go out for a walk in the afternoon. Then why not choose a time when there are not many classes? Ueda Aya complained. I wanted to, but she said she was free this afternoon. Chigu Yang said, if he had a choice, he didn't want to trouble Muyu. After all, Muyu was such a nice person. Seeing him suffer, Chigayong couldn't blame him. Kindly. Aya Ueda is no longer too lazy to talk about Isamu Ikeda. She really feels that there will be no good results between him and the blind date. Because if the other party is really interesting, he will definitely think about Ikeguyong instead of letting Ikeguyong trouble his colleagues. Teacher Chigu, come on. Muyu said with a smile, be busy and let him get more rewards. Thank you so much, Hanyu-sensei. If it works, I'll treat you to a meal at the most expensive restaurant in Konoha. Thank you Ikea Isamu, and then walked out of the office in a hurry. He had to go home to change clothes and clean himself up. What I said last time was right, Mr. Hanyu. If you act like this, others will ask you to help teach when they have no time. Aya Ueda sighed. It's good to help others, and colleagues should also help each other. Muyu said with a serious face. You're such a nice person, it's easy to suffer a loss like this. Ueda Aya sighed. Muyu smiled without saying anything and started practicing calligraphy. Seeing Muyu's serious look when practicing calligraphy, Ueda Aya couldn't help but feel that the gap between people is really big. If only Ikeda Isamu was a quarter as good as Muyu, he wouldn't have never been in love until now. When it felt like the time was almost up, Muyu stopped writing, packed up her desk, and headed to class 2 of the 4th year. When Muyu walked to the door of the classroom, the bell rang. Teacher Chigu is busy, so I will take over the ninjutsu class this afternoon. Muyu walked up and explained. He glanced around the classroom and saw that everyone was here except Obito. About 3 minutes into class, Obito hurried into the classroom and was stunned when he saw Muyu on the podium. After running so hard, he actually saw Teacher Muyu in his class. This was Obito's inner thought at this time. He even doubted for a moment whether he had gone to the wrong classroom, but when he saw those familiar classmates, it was obvious that he was not wrong. Obito didn't bother to rest and quickly explained. Teacher Muyu, I didn't mean to be late, I met, on the way. It's a waste of time to meet an old lady to help. Before Obito could finish speaking, someone in the class finished it for him, causing a burst of laughter. What I said is true. If I knew that Teacher Muyu was coming to class in the afternoon, I would definitely come half an hour early. Obito continued to explain. He was afraid that Muyu would think he didn't study well and stop teaching him. Go back to your seat. Muyu nodded in agreement with Obito's statement, and then added. You can't be late for Mr. Ikeda's class either. Ninjutsu classes in ninja schools are taught from the 1st grade, but only 3 ninjutsus are taught, the transformation technique, the clone technique, and the substitute technique. Although it seems a waste of time to only learn a few basic ninjutsu for a few years, it is actually quite reasonable, because geniuses like Shisui are in the minority after all. For those who are only Chunin as a ninja, it is not easy to learn these 3 ninjutsu, and there are other courses. Although they had attended countless 3 Shenjutsu classes, Muyu's ninjutsu class still made their eyes shine. So that's how it is. No wonder the clone was different from the original body. Some students made progress on the spot. I really hope that Teacher Chigu will have more things to do in the future, so that I can take more classes from Teacher Muyu. One student expressed his inner thoughts in a joking tone. Everyone around made a sound of approval. Muyu didn't express any opinion on this. He just sighed in his heart that the system's skills were really useful. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Reward. Thunder Release Thunder Clone. The skills of changing the properties of Thunder Chakra and various experiences of Thunder Escape and Shadow Clones instantly appeared in Muyu's mind. Although it is not a particularly strong ninjutsu, Muyu, who has unlocked another chakra attribute, thinks it is not bad. After all, it has been shipped once in the morning. In the next half-month, Muyu maintained this rhythm. If no one asked him to teach as a substitute, he would study ninjutsu theory in the office. If someone came to teach as a substitute, he would teach Shisui Obito and others at home, and then train chakra by himself. Maybe it was because the quality of the substitute teaching was so good that all the students who had taught it wanted to come again. In addition, Muyu was very popular with the teacher, and Muyu suddenly became a well-known teacher in the ninja school. The students all think that Muyu is a perfect teacher who is fun to teach, gentle and handsome. The teachers also feel that Muyu is a good colleague who is sincere and kind to others. As the center of the topic, Muyu didn't have much idea. He just set up the person he wanted to stand. Now he was guessing why the masked ninja standing in his yard came. "Yi, you have completed your mission very well. This is what Danzo-sama asked me to give to you." Ping Shu's handed the 2 scrolls to Muyu's hand. Muyu took the scroll and nodded calmly without saying anything. Root ninjas did not need to communicate much with each other. Ping Shu's didn't say anything anymore. He handed the scroll to Muyu and quickly left to prevent Muyu's identity from being exposed. After sensing Ping Shu's aura gradually disappearing, Muyu returned to the room and opened the 2 scrolls. A scroll records a fire escape ninjutsu, which is the dragon fire jutsu. The other scroll is Danzo's affirmation of Muyu's work and his latest instructions. Danzo first affirmed Muyu's work completion, saying that Muyu made a good decision to fully utilize her subjective initiative and quickly integrate into the ninja school, and hereby commends a powerful fire escape ninjutsu. Then Danzo asked Muzuki not to be proud, and to continue to develop in the ninja school according to this momentum, pay close attention to Uchiha Shisui in the class, and also try to pay attention to other Uchiha students. In the end, Danzo made a big deal for Muyu. If Muyu can maintain such performance in the future, he will help Muyu to be promoted to special Junin and hold important positions in the ninja school. After reading it, Muyu ignited flames in her hands and turned the 2 scrolls into ashes. A special Junin holds an important position, haha. Muyu smiled. If it were the original owner, he might be motivated by Danzo's set of awards and paintings, but Muyu. The rewarded fire escape was the dragon fire that he had already mastered, and he had no desire to be promoted to a special Junin. So Muyu had no fluctuation in his heart, he just wanted to laugh. Muyu was preparing to practice her body, and when she was reading a book, she suddenly found that she had finished reading all the books on ninjutsu at home. He thought for a moment and prepared to go to Konoha's library to borrow some books. There is a large library in Konoha, which contains various books and materials, including ninjutsu. It has been established since the 2nd generation period. Of course, there are only some D-level and C-level ordinary ninjutsu inside. It is impossible to find any forbidden or high-level ninjutsu inside, and the borrowing price of ninjutsu is not cheap. But it has nothing to do with Muyu, because he is not going to borrow ninjutsu, but to find information related to ninjutsu and sealing techniques. To narrow it down a bit, it is related to binding curse seals. The ninjutsu he gained through lectures was faster than his own practice. He wanted to try to see if he could break the tongue-bane eradication seal on his body. Although this curse mark is not as disgusting as the caged bird, it is still uncomfortable to have someone else's curse mark on your body. Walking on the streets of Konoha, Muyu felt a little dazed as she looked at the people coming and going. It has been more than half a month since she traveled to Hokage, and this is the first time Muyu has gone shopping in her own body. Normally, she has to go to the clone to buy groceries. Because of her special status and the danger of this world, Muyu always feels insecure. After cheating for more than half a month, she knew a little more ninjutsu and a little more chakra. Only then did Muyu feel a little more confident and felt that she would not die from an unknown AoE. When she arrived at the library, Muyu took out her little ninja notebook and handed it to the ninja on duty. It recorded some basic information about Muyu, including her name, ninja number, and so on. This library is only open to ninjas. The ninja on duty looked at it and nodded to Muyu to go in after seeing that there was no problem. Just as Muyu was about to look for information, a figure that was somewhat familiar to Muyu walked towards her. It was also a man with blonde hair and a gentle smile on his face. Sensing Muyu's gaze, Namikaze Minato also looked at Muyu. The two nodded slightly, and then Muyu entered and exited Minato. Name: Namikaze Minato. Chakra: 40,000. Potential: S. Evaluation: Killing a Jonin is like killing a coon, and if you look at it one more time, it will explode. Miu Yu's expression remained unchanged on the surface, but she was extremely surprised in her heart. This was the first time he saw tens of thousands of chakras, and it was still 40,000, which was equivalent to 86-year-old Shisui. The ratings are also frighteningly high, as if Junin kills them casually. At this time, Minato did not have the name of Yellow Flash. Now in the eyes of the public, he is just a powerful Jonin. However, his master Sannin Jiraiya is more famous and is one of the popular candidates for Hokage. However, Miu Yu thought about it and found that Minato's evaluation was not wrong. Minato, who was proficient in flying thunder gods, was indeed not difficult to kill an ordinary Junin. This kind of fast ninja torturer is simply not too strong. It would be great if Minato already had a son in the ninja school. Miu Yu said regretfully in her heart, so that he could find opportunities to get close to Minato. In fact, he wanted to make friends with Minato, because Minato's sealing skills were not low, and he was a little greedy for Minato's sealing skills. Curse seal is essentially a sealing technique and is a branch of it. If he had a master of sealing like Minato as an advisor, it would be much easier for him to break the seal of Tongue Bane. As for Kushina, Jinchuriki's identity is too sensitive, and Miu Yu doesn't want to cause trouble for herself. After taking 2 books related to sealing and 3 irrelevant books, Miu Yu left the library after completing the registration and payment. In Konoha's South Mirror Forest, Miu Yu is leading her disciples to practice before the exam. You two have not forgotten what you said before. You must pass the theory test tomorrow. Miu Yu reminded Obito and Metkai. Of course, if you fail, you will be punished by Teacher Muyu. Obito said confidently. Although they spend most of their time practicing ninjutsu, they only occasionally talk about theory and write papers. But just now they did the papers from previous years, and Obito got 30 points. According to his previous experience, this score was already several points above passing level. The pass mark for ninja school is half the average score, and the average score is generally over 50, so he is very stable. That's right, if you fail, you will run 800 laps around Konoha. Metkai shouted with great momentum. He had just received 30 points. Not only do I have to pass the theory, but I also have to take first place in actual combat. After receiving Miu Yu's teachings for more than half a month, Obito felt that he could beat his previous self. I will not give up the first place. Metkai expressed dissatisfaction. Miu Yu smiled and didn't say anything, but knowing the overall strength of the 4th graders, he knew that the 2 of them might not be able to take first place, because there was a student from the Hyuga clan in the 4th grade class who was very good. Although that student's potential is only A, Obito and Metkai's potential has not yet been realized. Obito has not opened the Sharingan, and Metkai has not mastered the 8 Gates dungeon. But it's hard to say for Miu Yu. After all, the level is too low and there are too many surprises. Miu Yu glanced at Ji Shui, who was reading quietly. He was sure that Ji Shui's results were absolutely crushing and ranked first in the whole grade, and he was also first in both theory and practice. If she could compete across grades, Miu Yu could only say that she might be number 1 in the school. I wonder if the system will reward the teacher if he does well in the exam. Miu Yu guessed in her mind. I was a little nervous about the first exam. I didn't know whether the questions were difficult or not. I hope it's not difficult. If you fail and go home, you'll be beaten. It shouldn't be the case. Didn't Teacher Muyu also give us mock papers? Passing is still easy. Perhaps because it was their first time to take an exam, many students in the first-year class were a little nervous. Worry about the questions being too difficult, worry about not getting good grades and getting scolded at home. Hongdu Izumo, are you nervous? Gang Ziti asked Shenyu Izumo. What's there to be nervous about? It's just a small test. Let me pass it easily. Hongdo said with a smile. Of course, you're not nervous. This is different from usual. The results will be announced by then. Shenyu Izumo replied. I'm also a little nervous. I only got 80 in Mr. Hanyu's mock paper last time. The official exam should be a little more difficult. I should only get 60 or 70. Gangzati nodded. My simulated score is a little better than yours. I got 87 in the exam, but I feel like I might be 67 this time. Shenyu Izumo said with a bitter look on his face. No, do you all have such high scores in the exam? Hongdu was a little confused. She was so confident that she only scored over 60 in the last mock test. The simulated results are all false and cannot be considered real. Shenyu Izumo sighed. Work hard to do well in the exam. Then the average score will be higher. I heard that if the results are too poor, the teacher may be replaced. Then it will not be teacher Mu Yu. Gang Ziti said the gossip he heard information. Change teacher. You can change to another teacher, but Hanyu sensei can't. Hongdu didn't want Mu Yu to leave. Although she is the head teacher, Mu Yu only has more classes in the first class. Not all classes are taught by Mu Yu, there are several other teachers. Well, the other teachers' classes are too boring. Only Mr. Hanyu's classes are interesting and easy to understand. Kamizuki Izumo agreed. Why don't we tell the whole class this news and encourage everyone? Shenyu Izumo thought of a good way. He read the novels where he had to boost morale before a battle. Hongdu thought this was a good idea, so he stood on his seat and announced the news to everyone. Hongdu's words caused a commotion in the classroom, and Mu Yu was their favorite and respected teacher. Everyone should work hard to do well in the exam. If teacher Mu Yu leaves in the future and there is another boring teacher like the taijutsu teacher, it will be miserable. Gang Ziti took the opportunity to say loudly. Work hard and do well in the exam, and never let teacher Mu Yu be replaced. I'll just tell you that I will look down on anyone who fails this time. Teacher Mu Yu said so. Shisui didn't get involved, it didn't matter, he would take action and directly win the first place in the grade. Students with such results will naturally not change. Everyone, please be quiet. The exam time is coming soon. Just do your best. The sudden appearance of Mu Yu's voice made the classroom instantly quiet. Everyone looked at the place where the sound came from, and saw that Mu Yu had walked to the door without knowing when. I believe everyone can get good grades in the exam. Mu Yu said with a smile, and without stopping too much, she quickly went to the class where she wanted to invigilate the exam. Mu Yu was naturally happy that so many students wanted to work hard to pass the exam so that he could continue teaching. However, Mu Yu could only say that they were worried for nothing. Even if the teacher was changed, it would still be based on the entire semester and the entire school year. Moreover, the simulation papers that Mu Yu gave them were actually more difficult than the real papers. Walking into the classroom of Class 2, Grade 4, Mu Yu walked directly to the podium and announced, "Everyone, please be quiet. The exam is about to begin." The teacher's proctor was randomly assigned, and he happened to be proctoring Class 2 of the 4th year. Teacher Mu Yu. Many people in Class 2 of 4th year greeted Mu Yu, and Mu Yu smiled and nodded in response. Class 2, Class 4, not only has Obito Metkai as his disciple, this class is also the class where he teaches more often, so everyone is quite familiar with him, and with Ikeya Isamu as a comparison, everyone likes Mu Yu even more. Teacher Mu Yu is watching here, you must pass this time. Metkai took a deep breath, looking like he was facing a formidable enemy. If you want to choose Metkai, between the two choices of taking a theoretical test and a formal genin battle, Metkai would rather choose to fight an official ninja. He will graduate next year, and fighting against official ninjas may lead to a wave of explosions. It is not impossible to win, but for some theoretical subjects, he is too anxious and has nothing to do. Lin, just wait and see. This time I guarantee that you will subvert your understanding of me. Obito said proudly in a low voice. You will definitely pass this time, right? I believe Obito you can do it. Nohara Lin encouraged with a smile. Although Obito has said this kind of thing countless times without success, Nohara Lin is still willing to believe Obito and give encouragement. Try to do what you know how to do correctly, check it several times, and put those difficult problems at the end. Nohara Lin reminded Obito softly. As a good friend, she really hopes that Obito can get rid of the title of Crane Tail. Yeah, Obito nodded in agreement. Soon another invigilator came into the classroom. He was Kimura Sugito, a teacher from the same office as Mu Yu. The two teachers in the same examination room were invigilating the exam together. When the bell rang, Mu Yu and Kimura Shanto distributed the test papers together. Afterwards, the two of them invigilated the exam together, silently and occasionally sat on the podium at the same time and chatted for a while. Teacher Ikeda is also feeling very uncomfortable. It is estimated that the bonus for this semester has been suspended, and there are two big cranes. Kimura Sugito sighed softly. It's hard to say. Maybe they will study hard this semester and pass the exam. Miyu smiled and shook her head. Miyu felt that Obito and Metkai's performance this time should shock a lot of people's jaws. I haven't passed the theory test even once for 3 consecutive years. If I were to pass, I should have passed it long ago. The more courses I take, the harder it becomes. Kimura Sugito thinks Miyu is too optimistic. Fortunately, they will graduate after this school year, otherwise. Kimura Shanran thought about how miserable it would be for such students to fall into his hands. After a brief chat, Miyu continued to patrol. He missed going to class a little bit. Because of exams, the entire ninja school was suspended for 3 days. The first day was various theoretical exams, the second day was actual combat, and the third day was also actual combat, with a decisive battle to determine the grade ranking. This 3-day suspension of classes meant to him that he had missed practicing several ninjutsu and refining dozens of chakras. Fortunately, the apprenticeship was still usable. After the theoretical exam, Miyu gave Obito some shurikens, which he blasted with 50 chakra. Teacher Miyu, just be optimistic when the time comes. I will definitely use the shuriken you gave me to defeat them all and take first place. Obito said gratefully. The practical exam is about to begin. At the training ground number 16, Miyu was taking roll call before the exam. Because the whole school took the exam together, and the actual combat required space, the school playground obviously couldn't accommodate so many people, so we went directly to the training ground to take the exam. After confirming that all the candidates had arrived, Miyu and Kimura Shanran announced the start of the lottery. The rules of the practical exam are very simple. First, the students are called according to the class roll call and draw lots. Then the opponents are determined by the drawn numbers. Number 1 will fight against number 2, number 3 will fight against number 4, and so on. I'm number 1, Lin, what's your number? After Obito drew the lot, he couldn't wait to find Nohara Lin. I am number 10. In this case, Obito, you are the first one. Nohara Rin replied. It doesn't matter which one, I will definitely win anyway. Obito is very confident. He believes that everyone will be shocked by his current strength. After practicing with Miyu for a month, Obito felt that he had gained something new every day. Now he had surpassed himself a month ago by countless steps. After asking Nohara Rin, Obito asked for Metkai's number. Number 40, Metkai replied. In this case, we will probably only meet at the end. Obito did not expect that Metkai would be the opposite of him. Don't lose before me, Obito. Metkai gave a thumbs up to cheer for Obito. It's up to me to tell you this. I'm an Uchiha. Obito didn't know whether Metkai did it intentionally or unintentionally. Why did this sound so provocative? Where did you two get your confidence from? The classmate next to him complained. Why did the two crane tails meet at the top of their game? The first battle is about to begin. Candidate number 1 Uchiha Obito and number 2 candidate Uchiha Tetsuo were ready to start the exam. Miyu glanced at the time and announced that the exam had officially begun. Obito did not argue with those who complained about him, and quickly walked to the square space with white lines drawn to prepare for the exam. Uchiha Tiehuo also quickly walked into the examination area and looked at each other with Obito. Although the two were both Uchiha, peers and classmates, they had barely spoken to each other. There is no bloody plot, it is simply that both parties are not interested in each other. Uchiha Tiehuo felt that Obito was a bit stupid, his strength was not good enough, and he was often late. He had never seen such a talented Uchiha. Obito felt that Uchiha was hard to get along with because he looked so cold and cold. Both parties are Uchiha, now it's interesting. The happy man could hardly help laughing. They are all from the same ninja clan, whoever loses will be embarrassed. What's the point of this? Apart from Uchiha Iron Fire winning, Uchiha Obito cannot win. The person next to him thought this was a battle without any suspense. You must know that Uchiha Tiehuo has always been the first in the class in the second and third grades except for being overwhelmed by Kakashi in the first grade. As for Uchiha Obito, no matter what level he is, he has failed in theory and is mediocre in actual combat. He can still beat Uchiha Iron Fire. When I think about it, it seems to be the case. Uchiha Tiehuo can be said to be a standard Uchiha ninja. He is excellent in both practical combat and theory. Except for the perverted Kakashi who graduated from the first grade, no one in the class can be his opponent. It would be a bit difficult for Uchiha Obito, the weakest member of the Uchiha clan, to defeat an outstanding Uchiha like Uchiha Iron Fire. Obito, be careful, Nohara Rin said worriedly. She felt that Obito's luck was really bad. Originally, with Obito's strength, he wouldn't be at the top of the class, but he wouldn't be in the first round either. But when encountering Uchiha Tiehuo, the ruthless character who is always number one, Nohara Rin just hoped that Obito would not show off his strength to avoid getting hurt. Mentally, she supports Obito to win, but the reality is that there is a clear gap in strength between the two sides. Almost everyone is not optimistic about it, but the victory under such circumstances is even more satisfying. Metkai crossed his arms with a hearty smile on his face. Unlike others, he believed that Obito could win. The movement of Class 2 of 4th year even aroused curiosity in other 4th grade classes around, and many people came over to take a look. The practical exam is relatively free, as long as you don't leave the training ground. But looking at Obito and Tekka, many people lost interest. They are all in the same grade and have been taking practical exams together for several years. Everyone knows who is better in which class. Uchiha beat Uchiha Obito with Iron Fire. Isn't this pure cruelty? What's there to see? Only some people who wanted to see Uchiha Iron Fire's strength stayed. The two stood opposite each other, forming a seal of opposition to each other. This is a necessary process for fighting in the ninja school. It is to tell the other party that I am going to take action, and after the fight, you must put a seal of reconciliation on it, symbolizing that we are still good partners. Start. Seeing that both of them were ready, Miyu announced that the battle had begun. As soon as Miyu finished speaking, Uchiha Tiehuo quickly took out 3 shurikens from his ninja tool bag and threw them at Obito, locking Obito's head, body and feet respectively, and then rushed towards Obito quickly. Obito also took out 3 shurikens and quickly threw them out. The 6 shurikens collided together and fell to the ground with a crisp metal collision sound. The Uchiha clan's shuriken throwing is indeed extraordinary. Even Uchiha Obito, who is relatively ordinary in talent, has good shuriken throwing skills. Kimura Shirin commented. To intercept a shuriken with a shuriken requires good accuracy. Because the venue was not big, Uchiha Tiehuo quickly approached Obito and quickly delivered a right hook. Obito was not afraid at all. He clenched his fists and faced him, and started a fight with Uchiha Iron Fire. The two sides went back and forth, and the dusty venue was very intense. Hey, is this Uchiha Obito so good at physical skills? The people who came to watch the excitement were surprised. Uchiha Obito, who is known as the leader of the Uchiha clan, actually had a back and forth with Uchiha Tiehuo. Everyone on the outside team was surprised, let alone my team members, who all looked like they had seen a ghost. Shouldn't the normal process be that Obito was kicked and killed instantly by Uchiha Iron Fire? Obito has really become a lot stronger. Nohara Rin opened her mouth slightly in disbelief. She always thought that Obito was just trying to be strong as before, but she didn't expect that he had really become stronger this time. Uchiha Obito is still a little behind. Kimura Shirt shook his head and said. As a chunin, he could see a lot more than the students. I'm really weak in physical skills. Miyu nodded. After all, there is only 1 month, how can we take into account all aspects? In this month, Obito mainly practices fire escape ninjutsu. Under Miyu's teaching, the change in nature has been greatly improved compared to before. As Kimura Shirin said, Obito was gradually pushed back. Let me tell you, how could Uchiha Obito be Uchiha Iron Fire's opponent? The person who had just complained about Obito breathed a sigh of relief. If Obito defeated Uchiha Iron Fire, wouldn't it look like he has no vision? However, he felt that it would be better to cancel Obito Uchiha's nickname of Crane-U in the future. This performance made him feel like he didn't know how much he weighed when he was still called Crane-U. Obito found an opportunity to temporarily distance the two of them with the help of Uchiha Tiehuo's fist, and then quickly began to form seals. He didn't practice fire release for so long just to have a passionate fistfight with Uchiha Iron Fire. Fire release. Dragon Fire technique. Obito quickly formed a seal, gathered all the chakra in his mouth, completed the change in nature and form at the fastest speed, and sprayed out a fiercely burning flame dragon, rushing towards the Uchiha Iron Fire. When Uchiha Tiehuo fought with Obito in close combat, he became more and more surprised. He didn't expect that Obito would grow so much in just a vacation, making much progress compared to the 3rd grade. Seeing Obito forming the seal to release ninjutsu, Uchiha Tiehuo immediately began to form the seal to prepare to use ninjutsu to fight with Obito. He didn't believe that Obito's taijutsu had improved so much, and how much ninjutsu could be improved. He didn't believe that he would lose to Obito in a ninjutsu duel. Fire release. High fireball technique. Uchiha Iron Fire exploded with chakra and blew a fireball as high as a person towards Obito. On one side is a ferocious fire dragon full of fangs, and on the other is a menacing fireball. The two ninjutsu are about to collide. I really envy them. They have all learned the offensive ninjutsu. Many of the students watching were a little envious. Some of them had not even mastered the 3-body technique yet. Let alone learn new ninjutsu, they had no channels to learn it. No, you call this a crane tail? The other students in the class were surprised. They originally looked at Uchiha's Iron Fire strength, but they found that Obito could actually use such a decent fire escape ninjutsu. This kind of level can't be said to be at the bottom of the ladder, it's almost the same as a top student. But I feel that Uchiha Iron Fire is more powerful. His fireball looks much bigger than Uchiha Obito's Fire Dragon. Someone commented. He felt that in a ninjutsu duel, the bigger-looking fireball would definitely win. As expected of an Uchiha, I didn't expect that this Uchiha Obito is quite hidden. Even if he is not as good as Uchiha Iron Fire, he is still expected to be the first in my class with this strength. Unfortunately, his theoretical scores are too poor. Kimura the man in the shirt sighed while rating the two of them. Those students from the wealthy ninja clan were different. When he was a student, he had secretly enjoyed learning the 3-body techniques well. Relying on the performance of physical skills and the ninjutsu displayed, even if he loses one round, he will give Obito a high score. Just when the two ninjutsu were about to collide, the fire dragon suddenly rose upwards. It did not collide with the Go Fireball, but continued to bite towards the Uchiha Iron Fire. Obito, on the other hand, moved quickly, dodging the Go Fireball while controlling the Go Dragon Fire. Uchiha Tiehuo didn't expect Obito to be so ungrateful in martial arts and not continue to compete with him in ninjutsu, but he had no choice for a while, the fireball couldn't turn. Seeing that the fire dragon continued to approach, Uchiha Tiehuo wanted to dodge but found that it was too late. After that, he could only grit his teeth and fight hard, preparing to be injured. At this moment, Miyu, who had been prepared for a long time, took action. He used the instant body technique to come to Uchiha Tiehuo and took him away. He took him out of the fighting venue and put him down. Thank you, teacher. Uchiha Tiehuo thanked Miyu. If Miyu hadn't taken action, injury would have been inevitable. Miyu nodded, and then announced the result of the battle. In the first game, Uchiha Obito won. Some of the students who were watching had not yet reacted. The situation had changed so much in just a moment. Originally, they were all ready to watch the fire release fight, but suddenly Obito played a trick and ended the battle in an instant. If the teacher hadn't taken action, Uchiha Tiehuo might have been injured. This Uchiha Obito should not be underestimated. Some onlookers looked at Obito with fear. Uchiha Iron Fire's large fireball, which is as tall as a person, does look impressive enough, but in fact it is not easy to hit under normal circumstances. Obito's Dragon Fire Jutsu is different. Although the attack range is not large, it is very flexible and easier to hit the opponent. Well done, Obito. Nohara Rin congratulated Obito with a happy face. She was really happy for Obito because he defeated Uchiha Iron Fire in the practical exam. In this way, even if his theoretical score was poor, no one would give Obito the title of Crane Tail. After all, ninjas still have to rely on their strength to speak for themselves. As soon as Obito came over, he heard Nohara Rin's praise, and a beaming smile appeared on his face instantly, and he said proudly, "Hey, I just said it's okay." At this time, Obito felt extremely grateful to Miyu. He knew the reason for all these changes. It was all because he became Miyu's disciple and accepted Miyu's careful teaching every day. If it had been him in the past, I'm afraid he would have been beaten by Uchiha Tiehuo with a few punches during the physical combat stage, and he would have lost his direction. Disciple Uchiha Obito's trust level has been improved, and the current trust level is 3. When Miyu was reading the exam list, a message popped up on the system. He glanced at Obito, who was smiling and talking to Nohara Rin. It seems that love brain is not without its benefits. Miyu thought in her heart. It is very difficult to increase the trust level, because even if you go up one level, the improvement will be huge, directly doubling the income and also enhancing the effect of apprenticeship returns. Don't look at the fact that the previous disciples who returned to their masters did not return much chakra. That was because Shisui and the others had not yet reached the stage of rapid growth in strength. If it comes to that kind of period, Shisui's chakra increase will be 10,000, and his trust level will be 1 higher, which will be 10,000 more chakra. Miyu's expectation is that one person with a trust level of 3 will appear within 1 semester. It must be an unexpected gain that Obito has improved to 3 in just 1 month. The next battle was not as intense as the first one, and there was basically no need for the teacher to come to the rescue. Miyu sat on a chair and graded the students according to their performance, chatting wordlessly with Kimura Shirin. If it weren't for the fact that she had to invigilate the exam, Miyu would have wanted to wander around and use appraisals to see if there were any missing geniuses. He has 4 disciple positions, but currently only 3 are used, and 1 is still vacant. Without knowing whether the number of disciples could be increased, Miyu was not prepared to use this quota on people with S or lower potential. The higher the disciple's upper limit, the more rewards he will receive in the future. There are many geniuses in Konoha and the ninja world is very large. There is no need to rush to fill positions. 1 more disciple will not bring any improvement in a short time. Miyu opened the panel and took a look at her attributes. Name: Hanyu Miyu. Age: 18. Chakra: 5,300. Skills: Water Release Water Breaking Wave, Fire Release Great Dragon Fire Technique, Water Release Water Formation Wall, Wind Release Press Damage. Evaluation: You have mastered many ninjutsu, including many advanced ninjutsu, which enables you to deal with various situations. Ordinary Junin are not your opponent. In fact, he improved his strength quite quickly. He increased his chakra by 1,000 points in 1 month, and his ninjutsu also changed from only 2 ninjutsu to dozens, including the powerful ninjutsu like Shuizenbo. Just looking at the panel, you can beat the time when you just traveled through time. 1 morning passed, and the first 2 rounds of fighting passed quickly. However, Metke failed to rectify his name like Obito, because his opponents were relatively ordinary. Although Metke solved them very cleanly, it was not to the point of subverting everyone's image. But Miyu knew that this would happen sooner or later, because the practical exam within the class would end in the afternoon, and the 2 sides would decide which one would be the best in the class. At noon, in the office, various teachers discussed their experiences in proctoring the exams. That Hyuga Kamen from Class 4 is so powerful. He is worthy of being a ninja of the Hyuga clan. Almost no one in Class 1 can hold on to him for a minute. Akari Isamu said with some envy. I guess he is the first in the actual grade this time. How I wish I was the head teacher of Class 1 of every 4 years instead of Class 2 of every 4 years, so that I can not just take bonuses casually, but also have enough money to date my date to a high-end restaurant. But this is impossible. With such good grades, it is naturally impossible to change teachers. Not necessarily. I think the Uchiha Obito in your class is pretty good, and he might be able to compete. Kimura Shirt interjected. Kai Gyeong showed a puzzled expression and asked. Sugito, you said the wrong name. It's Uchiha Tekka. His strength is indeed good. How could I say the wrong name? It's Uchiha Obito. Kimura Shanron said that he was very young and did not have Alzheimer's disease. He was talking about Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito. Impossible. What kind of strength can he have? Ikegaya looked at Kimura Shiro suspiciously, suspecting that he was fooling him. Uchiha Obito is famous for being the tail end of Uchiha. How could he have such a nickname if he is really powerful? Can I still lie to you? Uchiha Obito's opponent in the first match was the Uchiha Iron Fire you mentioned. He won very easily. Kimura Shirin continued. Seeing that Ikeguyang still didn't believe it, Kimura Shirin directly pulled out Miyu and said. Teacher Miyu proctored the exam with me. If you don't believe me, ask him. Kai Gyeong looked at Mu Yu. Mu Yu nodded and said, "It is indeed the same as what Mr. Kimura said. Uchiha Obito defeated Uchiha Tiehuo in the first game." "Hey, then this is really weird." Kai Gyeong scratched his head, feeling incredible. He believed Mu Yu's words. After all, that was teacher Mu Yu, who had been recognized by all the teachers only 1 month into the job. He couldn't be too reliable. Why can he defeat Uchiha Iron Fire? Ikea scratched his head and couldn't figure out why it would be like this. As for the crane tail that was promised, how did he defeat the previous number 1 in the class? It can't be a mysterious teacher from heaven who secretly teaches advanced ninjutsu. Looking at Ikea Isamu's performance, Mu Yu secretly thought in her heart, just because Obito showed his strength, you become so confused. If Metkai shows his strength again, he must be suspected of being under an illusion. Kai Gyeong can be considered a winner this time, and Mu Yu estimates that he should have kept his bonus. Mu Yu thought for a while. Kai Gyeong didn't just win by lying down, he also made a contribution. Because Kai Gyeong often asked him to take his place as a substitute teacher and help him recruit apprentices to earn rewards, which can be considered a bit of credit. In addition, he did treat him to dinner frequently, so he knew how to get along. Ms. Hanyu's class is amazing. Ueda Aya, who had been silent until now, spoke up. She was in charge of the exam for Mu Yu's first-year class. The overall level of the 3 body skills is almost the same as that of the second graders I taught. Aya Ueda sighed. Especially there is a super genius named Uchiha Shisui, who reminds me of Kakashi Hatake a few years ago. He will definitely be the number 1 in first-year combat this time. Can it be so exaggerated compared to Kakashi Hatake? Ikeda Isamu looked surprised. It doesn't matter if you are number 1 in grade, but being on par with Kakashi is terrifying. You must know that Kakashi has been recognized as a super genius in the ninja school in recent years, and his subsequent performance has also been very impressive. He was directly promoted to Chunin 1 year after graduation. It's so exaggerated. It's simply not on the same level as other first-year students. Aya Ueda nodded and said, "This is so cool. Mr. Hanyu, you are so lucky. You can be judged casually." Ikea looked envious. Why didn't he have such luck? He would be satisfied if he could keep the bonus. What luck, Mr. Hanyu teaches well. As for the overall level, we can't say that all the talented ones went to Mr. Hanyu's class. Aya Ueda corrected. She does not think that class 1 is so strong because of the abundance of talents, but because Mu Yu's teaching skills are excellent. Otherwise, how could the students in the substitute class hope that Mu Yu would come more often? That's not 2 classes in 1 class. All the classes that were substituted received good reviews. Slip of the tongue. Of course I know that Mr. Hanyu is good. My students wish that I would be busy every day and Mr. Hanyu would go to class. As he talked, Ikegu became a little depressed. He only let Mu Yu teach occasionally, and most of the time he taught classes by himself, but the students liked Mu Yu better. It's okay, it's all because of the students' hard work, Mu Yu said modestly. After chatting with her colleagues for a while, Mu Yu quickly started practicing calligraphy until the exam started in the afternoon. It's still training ground number 16, but there are a lot fewer people than in the morning. Because the exam does not force students who have already lost to continue taking it, they can decide whether to come or not. As time passed, the battles progressed one by one. Nohara Lin, who was not very good at fighting, was eliminated in the first round in the afternoon. And Metkai, who could cleanly deal with any enemy he encountered, was finally noticed by everyone. It turns out that Metkai's physical skills are so strong. His speed is too fast. He defeated Daisuke with 1 kick. The onlookers were surprised. It's changed a lot. I remember when I was in 3rd grade, I could only say it was okay, not that strong. A student who knew Metkai was a little confused. Maybe he practiced harder during the summer vacation and the new semester. He could only speculate on this possibility. The final battle, number 1 Uchiha Obito vs No. 40 Metkai, please prepare to start the battle. Mu Yu announced the list of the final battle of the class practical examination. After hearing this, Metkai and Obito looked at each other and quickly walked to the examination venue, ready to start fighting. Kai, I won't give up this first place to you. Obito glanced at Lin standing outside, and his fighting spirit instantly increased. In front of Lin, he really didn't want to lose at all. Me too. Since you want to be the strongest, you must get all the first places you can strive for. Metkai replied with high spirits. I really let them get to the end. The student who had complained about the two before felt a little pain in his face. They felt it was outrageous. The third graders were still lagging behind. Who would have thought that the fourth graders would be so powerful all of a sudden? Who would dare to think like this before the exam begins? They all think that Uchiha Iron Fire will be the first in the class in actual combat. They couldn't imagine what the two of them would get into during the holidays and the new semester. After finishing their harsh words, Metkai and Obito stopped talking. The two faced each other and formed a seal of opposition. Start. The increase in collection is not good. I plan to change the name to Naruto. I can become stronger if I teach. What do you think? The moment Miyu announced the start of the exam, Obito began to retreat quickly, forming seals and performing ninjutsu while retreating. He knew that Metkai was very good at physical arts, so naturally he would not compete with Metkai in physical arts. Clone technique. Poof. After the ninjutsu was performed, two clones exactly like him appeared next to Obito. The three Obitos kept crossing each other and running, trying to confuse Metkai. Konoha Tornado. But Metkai's speed was faster than Obito expected, and he caught up in an instant. An extremely fast whirlwind kick instantly dissipated the two clones, and Obito's body was also kicked backwards. More than 1 meter. It's so powerful. Obito's arm trembled uncontrollably. He resisted the kick with his arm. Now his arm was aching. Metkai was unyielding when he gained the upper hand, and immediately bullied him forward, forcing Obito to continue the close combat with him. But in a purely physical confrontation, Obito was no match for Metkai, and he quickly fell into a disadvantage. Who do you think will win? The onlookers began to discuss the final winner. Metkai, it feels like Uchiha Obito will be defeated soon. A student analyzed the situation at the scene. Not necessarily. When Uchiha Obito and Uchiha Iron Fire fought before, they were at a disadvantage in their physical skills, but in the end they still won with fire escape. Some people think that Obito, who has mastered powerful fire escape, just hasn't exerted his strength yet. After all, Obito actually defeated the former number 1 Uchiha Iron Fire, and his record is still very good. Teacher Miyu, who do you think will win? Kimura Shirin suddenly asked. Metkai. Miyu thought for a while and replied. Yes, although that Uchiha Obito has mastered the powerful fire release, this examination venue is not suitable for him to perform. Kimura Shirin agreed. Miyu nodded. In fact, the strength of the two was almost the same. But Obito is currently like a Ford mage who doesn't have much melee ability and can't cast spells without chanting. It's difficult to beat Metkai, a high-speed warrior, in such a flat land. Sure enough, in the next moment, Metkai caught Obito and kicked him away with a Konoha whirlwind. Metkai wins. Miyu announced the final results of the exam. The student who just thought Obito would win couldn't help but cover his forehead. He felt that Obito never disappointed in this aspect. Just when you thought he was going to lose against Uchiha Iron Fire, he won. When you thought he would win against Metkai, he lost. Metkai, you are so powerful. How do you train? Some classmates couldn't help but start asking Meteki for tips on becoming stronger. How to exercise. I get up at about 5:30 in the morning and run around Konoha to class, and then practice taijutsu on wooden stakes all night. On weekends. Metkai thought about his daily schedule and then answered. Farewell. The inquiring student immediately admired Metkai when he woke up at 5:30 in the morning. Later, he mentioned that after practicing physical skills on wooden stakes all night, he no longer wanted to hear it. He felt that even official ninjas wouldn't practice like this every day. Obito, are you okay? Lin walked to Obito's side and asked with concern. Obito patted the dust off his body and said easily. It must be fine. I lost this time, but I will definitely win next time. In front of the girl you like, everything should be okay. But Nohara-rin is not that easy to fool. She grabbed Obito's arm and rolled up her sleeves. She saw a few bruises, then glared at Obito and said. Do you think it will be useful if you show off your strength? Your injuries will not recover just because you show off your strength. Go to the infirmary quickly and apply medicine. With that said, Lin took Obito to the infirmary. Obito said don't worry, but he didn't resist and followed Lin away. The mouth is a bit rebellious, but the body is really honest. The practical exam on the second day after ranking first in the class ended here. Tomorrow's exam will be for each class to send the top 2 students in the class to take a practical exam to determine the top grade student. After the exam, Matt Kai was about to say goodbye to Mu and go home. He wanted to tell his father Matt Day the good news. Matt Kai could already imagine in his mind the scene of his father bursting into tears and shouting about his youth. However, Mu did not let Kai leave immediately. Instead, she took Kai to an uninhabited land on the grounds that she had something to give to Kai. Mu smiled and said, "Kai, congratulations on getting first place." After saying that, Mu took out a pamphlet and handed it to Matt Kai. "This is a taijutsu training manual that I wrote in my free time recently. It also contains some of my ideas for the subsequent development of Konoha Tornado. Consider it a gift for being number 1 in your class." Matt Kai saw the manual, but he also noticed Mu's hand holding the manual. Mu's hand looked clean on the surface, but Matt Kai, who was sharp-eyed, noticed that there were some very light ash on Mu's palm, like traces of ink that she had tried hard to wash but failed to clean. After looking at the content inside, Matt Kai understood everything in an instant. "I didn't write this casually when I had nothing to do. I'm afraid I didn't put a lot of effort into thinking about it and wrote it to him. Even if he didn't get the first place, I would give it to him for other reasons." The ideas for the follow-up development of Konoha Tornado made Metke feel that it was tailor-made for him. If he hadn't spent time on this, Metke wouldn't have believed it. "Teacher Muyu, I will definitely not let down your efforts, and I will definitely become the strongest taijutsu ninja in the future." The emotional Matt Kai was directly moved to tears. Mu took out the paper and wiped away the tears for Matt Kai, patted Matt Kai on the shoulder and said with a smile, "It's good if you think so. For a teacher, the best reward is for his disciples to become stronger." When she said this, Mu's expression was extremely sincere. "Yeah," Matt Kai nodded heavily. At this moment, his belief in becoming stronger was a little firmer. Looking at Matt Kai, who was gradually going away, Mu looked at the system messages and smiled on her face. "You gave the disciple a physical training manual." Because the disciple was very grateful, he was rewarded with a big critical hit and gained proficiency in changing the properties of water chakra. Disciple Matt Kai's trust level has been improved, and the current trust level is 3. Good luck. Mu felt the extra memory in her mind and was in a very good mood. Generally, the rewards returned from apprenticeships are related to what the disciple is good at. For example, Shisui and Obito have more explosive fire escapes and more Kaibaku taijutsu. However, there are also surprises, and sometimes there are unrelated rewards. Compared with being proficient in a certain physical skill, being proficient in the chakra attribute is undoubtedly much better. Mu is very satisfied. If there are more of them, he may be able to develop his own blood inheritance limit. As for the trust level improvement, that is an additional surprise. Mu feels that in the future, good quality items must be carefully planned before being sent out, so as to arouse emotions to the maximum so that it is easier to explode good items. For example, this time, if it were given to Matt Kai in ordinary times, he would probably only be able to show off some skilled ninjutsu and taijutsu. But when Matt Kai was excited about winning first place, he sent it out, and inadvertently let Matt Kai see the ink marks on his hands that couldn't be washed away. Finally, he asked for some chicken soup, and the effect was completely different. Giving gifts when he takes first place will remind Matt Kai of Mu's teachings to him. Without Mu's teachings, would he be able to take first place? This initially arouses emotions. Let Matt Kai see the ink marks on his hand, and know how difficult this gift is. He can make up for Mu's efforts and amplify his emotions. Finally, he adds some chicken soup, and his emotions explode in an instant. After the exam tomorrow, the results should be out in 2 days. Mu was still wondering whether the system would issue exam rewards. It stands to reason that if the students perform so well, the teacher should be rewarded. The exam on the 3rd day is much faster. After all, there are only 2 people in each class, and there are only 8 classes in one grade of ninja school. Today is the same as the next day, non-candidates can choose not to come. However, many students came to watch the exam today, wanting to see who would be the first in the 4th grade. Am I dazzled? Isn't that Uchiha Obito? Why is he on the side of the candidates? Someone said in confusion. You didn't pay attention to the news about Class 2 yesterday, did you? The person next to him asked. Well, I was unlucky yesterday and met the strongest player in our class in the first round. I lost and went home. That's normal. Uchiha Obito has become very strong now and defeated all the Uchiha Iron Fire in his class. The onlookers were discussing the contestants of each class with great interest. Sometimes there are arguments about who is stronger. At this time, even those who have complained about Obito and Metkai before will try their best to defend Obito and Metkai. After all, they are the representatives of their own class. This time, Shisui is probably the only one who ranks first in grade. After watching the first round, Muyu felt that Obito and Metkai were in danger. That Hyuga Kamen's soft fist practice is good, coupled with the advantage of Byakugan, it will be difficult for Metkai to win, let alone Obito. Muyu can only say that the ninjas of the Hyuga clan still have an advantage in the early stage. The Byakugan is not as difficult to open as the Sharingan, and the ancestral soft fist is also an excellent physical skill. The time the two of them have practiced with him is still too short. Now their strengths are not strong enough and there are still many shortcomings. As time passed, the last 2 rounds of battles entered, with Obito fighting against Hyuga Kamen, and Metkai fighting against a ninja from Class 3 of 4th year. As Muyu expected, in front of Hyuga Kamen, Obito was beaten so hard by the soft fist that he couldn't even use a ninjutsu. In the finals, Metkai's performance was much better than Obito's, but his moves were completely seen through by Hyuga Kato's supercilious eyes, and he still couldn't escape the outcome of losing. Obito was a little frustrated after losing the game. He still wanted to compete for first place, but he didn't expect that he didn't make it to the top 2. Muyu happened to pass by, so she consoled her, don't always think about your failures. You should think about how much you have improved compared to the last time, and work hard for the next time. When Muyu said this, Obito felt much better instantly, because when he took the final exam of 3rd grade last time, he was ranked 20 in the class, and this time he was just shy of the top 2 in grade. Calculating it this way, he has made great progress and is just around the corner. Then Muyu passed by Metkai again. Unexpectedly, Metkai also looked a little depressed. Muyu originally thought that with Kai's will, he wouldn't care about winning or losing. But after thinking about it carefully, Muyu found the reason. Maybe it was because he gave the physical training manual yesterday, which made Metkai feel that he had Muyu's expectations on his shoulders. Failure always runs through life. This is life. Don't let a failure knock you down. Muyu comforted. Metkai's body was shaken. If it was a failure, then he would have a lot of say. In the first entrance exam, he almost missed the opportunity to become a ninja. Then he challenged Kakashi and was killed instantly with one move. He was ranked last in all courses and was called the weakest person. Although he is only 8 years old, Metkai has already experienced too many failures. He seemed to have some understanding of what his father Matt Day said about youth never fading. I understand, Teacher Muyu. Metkai's eyes became firmer. What he has to do is not to think about his gains and losses in frustration, but to train hard to win the next battle until he becomes the strongest. Muyu nodded happily, and then started to pass Shisui. When Muyu found Zishui, Zishui was surrounded by a bunch of students asking questions. Seeing Muyu coming, the students greeted Muyu one after another. Ms. Hanyu, I got 2nd place in grade. Is there any reward? Enko said as she walked to Muyu with a smile. Muyu smiled, touched Hongdo's little head, thought for a while and said, how about treating you to some dumplings? Okay, Hanyu-sensei is the best. When she heard that there were dumplings to eat, Enko immediately transformed into the first Muzukibuki. Shisui ranks 1st in grade and you haven't asked for a reward yet. Enko, you're too impatient. Gang Ziti beside him couldn't help complaining. It's not that Enko is really impatient, it's just that Enko is a bit sour. I am afraid that my brother will not do well in the exam, and I am also afraid that my brother will do too well in the exam. Now Hongdu is considered to have done too well in the exam. Muyu sent the students away with a smile, and then led Zishui towards the commercial street. How do you feel? Muyu asked. Zishui thought for a while and said honestly. It's very ordinary. There isn't even anyone who needs my full strength to fight. It's normal. After all, with your strength, no one in the 4th grade can be your opponent, let alone the 1st grade. Mu Yu praised without hesitation. Teacher Mu Yu, do you think I should graduate early? Je suis asked, looking into Mu Yu's eyes. Mu Yu's eyes were a very special color, as blue as the sky. Graduate early, because I heard that there were very talented seniors in the past who thought they couldn't learn anything from the ninja school and graduated quickly. Shisui replied. Mu Yu shook her head and said, I don't recommend that you graduate in the 1st grade. You have to wait until at least the 2nd or 3rd grade. Your strength may be outstanding among your peers, but after leaving school, your opponents are not just your peers, especially now that a war may break out at any time. If you feel that the courses in the ninja school are meaningless, you can use the shadow clone to help you go to school, and then the main body will practice according to my instructions. Mu Yu gave suggestions. Although in the original work, Shisui survived the 3rd ninja war safely and gained the title of Shunshin Shisui, but the original work did not include him, Hanyu Mugetsu, and it is difficult to explain the butterfly effect. Mu Yu still hopes that Shisui Go will develop in the ninja school for a few years. If you can't even be a chunin, what's the point of graduating? If he didn't have the strength of a jonin, he wouldn't feel safe walking on the streets of Konoha. Hearing Mu Yu's suggestion, Zishui's eyes lit up and he nodded, feeling that Mu Yu's suggestion was very good. Then Mu Yu took Shisui to buy a bunch of dumplings and returned to school. Every student in class 1 received a piece of dumplings before class in the afternoon. Mu Yu would not really give it to Hongdo alone, but after all she agreed. Mu Yu gave Hongdo an extra portion of dumplings. Hanyu-sensei is the best in the world. Enko said she was very satisfied. If there were a few more dumplings, there might be another Hanyu sect in Konoha in the future. Other students also expressed their gratitude, and their already high favorability increased again. The ninja school is very efficient. All the results were compiled and announced 2 days after the exam, which also verified Mu Yu's conjecture. Azumo, good morning. In the early morning, while walking to the ninja school, Gang Ziti said hello to Shenyu Azumo, whom he met by chance. Well, good morning. Kamizuki Azumo responded. Gang Ziti put his arms around Shenyu Izuyan's neck, locked Shenyu Izuyan's neck, then let go and smiled. Why do you look so lethargic? Shenyu Azumo sighed and said, Zitai, have you forgotten? Today is the day for results. Yes, Azumo, didn't you perform well in the exam? Gang Ziti remembered that Mu Yu said yesterday that the results would be out today. Yes, I feel that the score may be very low. Shenyu Azumo looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, looking a little sad. It's okay, I didn't perform well either. I'll probably be the same as you by then. Gang Ziti patted Shenyu Azumo on the shoulder to comfort him. Then the two of them walked towards the ninja school together, and happened to meet Enko when they were approaching the ninja school. Azumo, Ziti, good morning. Enko happily greeted the two of them. Good morning, Enko, the two responded. Why do you guys look so bad? Did you have a nightmare last night? Hongdo asked curiously. No, because today is the day for results. Gang Ziti sighed. None of us did well in the exam, and we feel our scores are very low. Hehe, is that so? I feel like I did pretty well on the exam, maybe my score is quite high. Hearing this reason, Hongdu smiled proudly. Then I can ask for rewards from Hanyu-sensei again. Although she hasn't seen the scores yet, Enko feels like she can open the champagne. After all, Kodoko Tetsugami Azumo's theoretical scores are pretty good. She did better than them all, so that's a pretty high score. I really envy you, Hongdu. You are second in the practical grade and you actually did well in the theory test. Kamizuki Azumo expressed his envy. Hearing Shenyu Azumo's praise, Enko couldn't help but swell up even more, walking with wind, looking like a big sister. Then the Enko trio also met Shisui and other students in their class when they entered the school. How did you do in the exam, Shisui? Enko asked curiously. It's just normal, Shisui replied calmly. Enko couldn't help but look forward to her score even more. Even Shisui's test was average, how could she be the first? It's still impossible to be number 1, but there should be one in the top 5. Hongdu has not lost her mind because she usually only gets average results in exams. When I walked to the bulletin board, it was already surrounded by a bunch of students, and there were voices everywhere discussing their grades. The scores in this class are too high, there are many in the 70s and 80s. There is also a perfect score. It seems to be the best in actual combat. It's really scary. As expected of the class led by teacher Mu Yu. Give way, give way. Hongdu, who was eager to know his own results, was not in the mood to pay attention to what others were saying. He directly led the charge and squeezed in with Gangzati and Shenyu Izumo, and found the results list of Class 2. 80 points. Okay. Hongdu saw her name and the 80 at the end, and she cheered happily. But soon she noticed a problem. It seemed that the ranking was not quite right. Ziti, Izumo, have you found your scores? Hongdu asked quickly. Well, I found it, 92 points. Gangzati nodded and said. How many, how much? Hongdu suspected that she heard wrongly. 92 points. Gangzati repeated. Konoha swears. Hongdu gave Gangzati a heavy slap on the shoulder, and looked at Gangzati with two big brown-gray eyes in disbelief. You failed to do well in the exam as promised, so you got a score of 92. You call this a failure in the exam? Hongdu couldn't help but ask. Luck, I thought I didn't do well in the exam, but it turns out I did okay. Gangzati said with a smile. What about you, Izumo, what's your score? Gangzati asked. 97. Shenyu Izumo replied with a smile. How much? Gangzati felt that he had heard wrong. This was almost a perfect score. 97. Shenyu Izumo repeated. This time Gangzati heard it very clearly. The smile on his face gradually disappeared, and the smile on Shenyu Izuyan's face became stronger and stronger. Thank you for comforting you so early in the morning. You did so well on the test and almost got full marks. Gangzati directly locked Shenyu Izuyan's neck with his arms and took Shenyu Izuyan out. Seeing this familiar scene, Hongdu decisively joined the fight, secretly punching Gangzati from time to time. These two people are so hateful. They did so well in the exam and yet they deceived her about her feelings. Studying hard for a month, disciple Uchiha Shisui achieved perfect results in the academic assessment and received rewards. Chakra plus 300, Ninjutsu Proficiency Scroll. Ninjutsu Proficiency Scroll. Upgrade any mastered ninjutsu to proficiency level. Studying hard for a month, disciple Uchiha Obito achieved good results in the academic assessment and received a reward. Chakra plus 150. Studying hard for a month, disciple Metkai achieved good results in the academic assessment and received a reward. Chakra plus 150. As Mu Yu expected, there were indeed rewards in the exams, and they were much richer than the rewards in lectures. In the past 3 days, even though his voice was smoking, he couldn't produce 600 chakras, and AB level evaluation only had 20 chakras. This is because Obito Metkai's theory is too poor and he is not ranked first in actual combat, otherwise the reward would be higher. Mu Yu suddenly had the urge to take more exams in school. Ninja schools usually only have 2 exams in a semester. If this happened 10 times a semester, he wouldn't be able to fly into the sky. Mu Yu gave up this idea as soon as it appeared, because he knew that if he did this, he might not be able to get the reward. When he usually takes exams in class, they are considered exams, and the system does not give him any rewards. Moreover, Mu Yu felt that her proposal would not be accepted by the school. Taking the test 10 times a semester would make not only the students but also the teachers miserable. Mu Yu thought about it and used the ninjutsu proficiency scroll. There are 3 semesters in a year, and there are 2 exams in each semester. This means that you can get 6 ninjutsu proficiency scrolls in 1 year. Anyway, you can get it later, so why not increase your strength first to prevent accidents? Mu Yu used the ninjutsu proficiency scroll on Shuizenbo, and many memories of practicing Shuizenbo and various techniques appeared in his mind. Although Mu Yu now masters a lot of ninjutsu, Mu Yu believes that the most powerful one is Shui Duanbo. In the office at noon, Mu Yu became the center of discussion. Mr. Hanyu, how do you teach? This student's theoretical score is too outrageous. The average score is several dozen points higher than other classes. Kimura Shirin couldn't help but ask. Yes, teacher Mu Yu, do you have any tips? Although the 2 in my class barely passed this time, they might not be able to do it next time. Kai Gaiong followed. Metkai and Obito really shocked him this time. Not only did they take the top 2 spots in the class in actual combat, but they also passed the test in theory. When Mu Yu wanted to say something, a teacher entered the office and said to Mu Yu, "Teacher Hanyu, the principal is looking for you. Please also go to the principal's office as soon as possible." "Principal," Aya Ueda exclaimed softly. "There are no great teachers in the ninja school, they are basically all ordinary chunin, but the principal of the ninja school is not an ordinary person. The ninja school currently has only 2 principals, one is the 2nd generation Hokage Senju Tobarama, and the other is the current 3rd generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although he is the principal, it is not easy for the teachers to see Sarutobi Hiruzen, because except for a few words at the beginning of school, Sarutobi Hiruzen usually does not come to school and will handle official business in the Hokage building." This was the reason why Aya Ueda exclaimed. It was so rare for Hiruzen Sarutobi to be in the principal's office and summon a teacher alone. "Okay, I'll be there right away." Mu Yu nodded, and then apologized to the teacher in the office. "Sorry everyone, I'm going to the principal's office and I'll talk about the lecture when I get back later." "What's the point of being embarrassed? Mr. Hanyu, go ahead and don't keep the Sandaime-sama waiting," Akari Isamu said, with an uncontrollable expression of envy on his face, and his eyes were almost turning into lemons. He has been teaching for several years and has never been treated like this. Not to mention being summoned alone, he has never entered the principal's office. However, Kai Guyong felt relieved when he thought about Mu Yu's teaching level and the quality of his students. The average score of other first-grade classes was around 40 or 50, but Mu Yu's class scored over 70, leaving the other classes behind. The actual combat scores are generally higher, and he also ranks among the top 2 in his grade. Uchiha Shisui, who ranks first, is even recognized as a super genius. Ikegu Yang asked himself, can he bring out such a class? No. After Mu Yu finished speaking, she turned around and headed to the principal's office. The principal's office is on the top floor of their teaching building, which is the 5th floor. Mu Yu's small office is on the 2nd floor. Looking at the sign of the principal's office next to the door, Mu Yu knocked on the office door. "Come in." A rather dignified middle-aged man's voice came from inside the door. Mu Yu opened the door and walked into the office. Mu Yu glanced at it casually. The layout of the office was very monotonous, with bookshelves and desks near the window, and a set of desk seats near the door. And Hiruzen Sarutobi is not as old as he was at the beginning of the anime. His hair and beard are still black, and there are not many wrinkles on his face. His eyes are full of majesty, giving people a feeling of calmness and self-power. This may be because of his role in ninja. Because of school, he didn't bring his Hokage hat. "It's Mr. Hanyu, please sit down quickly." Sarutobi Hiruzen did not show off as Hokage. He stood up and walked to the table and chairs near the door. He smiled and motioned for Mu Yu to sit down. "Sandaime Hokage-sama," Mu Yu said with respect, without any pretense, and sat down. In his previous life, Sandai's reputation was not good. Due to various reasons, many things became his conspiracy. He didn't know what kind of person the 3rd generation in front of him was in reality, but as a teacher of a ninja school, his appearance skills must be in place. Even if he cursed in his heart, he still had to put a smile on his face. "Hanyu, you are a person with teaching talent," Sarutobi Hiruzen praised with a smile. "I heard about the results of your class. The average theoretical score is 20 to 30 points higher than other classes. In practice, the top 2 in the grade are also taken by your class." The invigilators all said that the mastery of basic ninjutsu such as the transformation technique and the clone technique is better than that of other classes. It's the students who are serious. I just try my best to teach them, and the rest depends on their efforts. Mu Yu thought for a while and said. He was humble, but not completely humble. First, he said that there are also reasons for the students' own reasons, and then he said that he tried his best to teach and pointed out his own efforts. Teach as much as you can, that's right. Sarutobi Hiruzen was very satisfied with Mu Yu's answer and sighed. If the ninja school had more teachers like you, Hanyu-sensei, who are dedicated to educating students, there would be no need to worry about the training of the juniors. Mu Yu did not answer this sentence, but looked like she was listening carefully. If you admit it, doesn't it mean that other teachers are incompetent? If you don't admit it, it means that other teachers are not serious. Based on the performance of Class 1 this time, I will help you decide on the outstanding teacher for this semester. Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a smile. Miyu made a surprised expression on her face, and immediately thanked Sarutobi Hiruzen with a moved expression. However, Sandaime-sama, isn't this a bit too good? After all, it's only been a month, and I'm afraid that spreading the word will damage your reputation. Miyu said with a worried look on her face, worried that this would affect the reputation of the Sandaime. Excellent teachers are meant for teachers who perform well. If other teachers can bring out such a class, I will do the same. Sarutobi Hiruzen said domineeringly. Sandai continued to draw cakes and said, Hanyu-sensei, if you maintain this teaching quality for the next year, I will promote you to a special junin and serve as the deputy monitor of the ninja school teacher class. Thank you Sandaime for your cultivation, but as a teacher, my responsibility is to teach students well, and I always keep this in mind. Miyu said with a sincere face. Hishindo Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen were indeed taught by the same teacher. They both painted cakes so that they looked like the same cake. They were both promoted to special junin. But it's a pity that compared to the position of special junin, Miyu really hopes that his students will improve, because in this way, he can earn a lot of gold coins. Seeing Miyu's extremely sincere feelings, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who has read countless people, is convinced that Miyu is telling the truth, and he appreciates Miyu more and more. Hanyu-sensei, I want to talk to you about some personal matters next. I wonder if you are willing to listen. Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly asked. Miyu nodded, thinking about what kind of medicine these 3 generations of gourds were selling. I have a young son named Sarutobi Asuma. He just graduated this year and became a genin. He is still very immature in every aspect, which gives me a headache. I would like to hire you as a tutor to teach him. Hiruzen Sarutobi sent out the invitation. With Miyu's current teaching level, Hiruzen Sarutobi felt that it would be no problem to teach Asuma, a newly graduated genin. This is also a test of Miyu's ability. If the performance is really good, it will be worthy of him coming forward and asking Danzo for help. Whether he is an excellent teacher or a special junin, he uses it to increase Miyu's favorability and pave the way for the future. These are all things that matter to Sarutobi Hiruzen in just one sentence, so he is happy to make this casual move. Sandaime-sama, I need to consider this carefully. Miyu thought for a while, but did not agree directly. This was a bit beyond Sarutobi Hiruzen's expectations. He didn't expect Miyu to refuse. Because I have to attend classes on weekdays, I definitely don't have time from Monday to Friday. And on weekends, I also have to think about how to start teaching next week. I can only agree if I guarantee the teaching quality of both parties, so let me think about it. Miyu explained. Sandai was stunned for a moment, then laughed and praised Miyu again as an excellent teacher, and then said that there is nothing else to do and you can leave. Miyu gave Sandai an appraisal before leaving. Name: Sarutobi Hiruzen. Chakra: 170,000. Potential: S. Evaluation: I have high talent in ninjutsu and am good at combining ninjutsu. Single nature ninjutsu may not be comparable to blood succession limit. If I use 5 nature-changing advanced ninjutsu at the same time, how should you respond? The 3rd generation Hokage is the pinnacle. Seeing the string of zeros of chakra, Miyu was surprised and a little envious as she walked out of the office. After all, this was a total of 170,000 chakras, 130,000 more than the last time he saw Minato. However, Minato is only 18 years old now, so it doesn't make much sense to compare a middle-aged ninja in his prime with a growing ninja. How should I write a report after I go back? Surprised, Miyu was already thinking about how to write a report to Danzo. It's just an excuse that he doesn't have time to think carefully. Although he is not idle, it's not like he can't spare some time a week to teach Asuma. Miyu could feel that the 3rd generation was trying to win his favor, otherwise he wouldn't have said that he was an outstanding teacher, especially a junin. But the sincerity of the 3rd generation is too little, and there is no benefit, just a pie in the sky. If Sandai directly revealed his identity when he entered the office and asked whether he wanted to follow him, Miyu would definitely kick Danzo out and follow Sandai. But now the 3rd generation doesn't ask him to reveal his identity. It seems that he is still hesitating, and the old scumbag is showing off. If he agreed directly, Danzo wouldn't be able to get any favors from him, so he might as well find an excuse to not give an answer for the time being and throw the question to Danzo. As for whether the third generation would not know his identity, Miyu could only say that it was not impossible, but it was probably unlikely. After all, Nibi is an existence that cannot be put on the stage. If the third generation does not even know that Nibi Ninja has entered the ninja school, his role as Hokage and principal will be in vain. After returning to the office, the teachers asked Miyu curious questions. Teacher Hanyu, why did the third master ask you to go? Is it a reward? Aya Ueda asked curiously. It should be so. After all, the test scores are so good this time. I am still a new teacher. Teacher Hanyu is too strong. Ikegu Yang sighed, and he was convinced by Miyu. It's a confirmation of my teaching achievements. Miyu sat down and took out a pen and paper, then thought about it and said. When will I be recognized by the third generation of adults? Kimura Shirin only felt that there was a huge gap between people. He still remembered how young Miyu was when she first came here, and he didn't expect that he would surpass his senior in teaching achievements so quickly. Just try your best to teach students, Miyu said while practicing calligraphy. Teacher Miyu, could you please help me finish class this afternoon? I have something to do. Kai Guyong poured a glass of water for Miyu and said. Okay, I'm free in the afternoon. Miyu nodded and agreed. Teacher Hanyu, I understand why those students like you. Ikegu Yang quickly thanked him. By the way, Sugito, please lend me some money and I'll pay you back when your salary is paid. Immediately after, Ikeda Isamu said to Kimura Sugito. Originally, he wanted to borrow it from Miyu, but he felt embarrassed when he thought that he had asked Miyu to take over his classes so many times. How much do you want to borrow? Asked Kimura Shiro. He and Ikeda Isamu are old friends, so it's okay to borrow some money. 80,000 taels will be enough. Kai Guyong thought for a while and said. 80,000 taels, what are you going to borrow for? The man in Kimura's shirt paused as he was about to take out the money. The monthly salary of a teacher in their ninja school is only 100,000 taels, so Akari Isamu directly borrowed more than half of it. Although it doesn't mean you can't borrow it, you have to ask clearly. Miyu also looked sideways. The Hokage's setting was that 1 tael equals 10 yen, so Ikeda Isamu directly borrowed 80,000 taels, which is equivalent to borrowing 800,000 yen. It might not be a big deal to those powerful ninjas, but it was still a lot to a Chunin teacher. It's a date. I can't invite people to eat ramen, Ikeda explained. You're not going to spend all your salary on dating, are you? Kimura Shirin looked at Akari Isamu with the eyes of a big enemy. If you use it for a date, doesn't it mean it's for yourself? It's not like I haven't eaten. Ikegu Yang tried to argue. Stop talking. If you were alone, would you like to go to those high-end restaurants to eat? Aya Ueda complained. She had warned Chigu Yang a long time ago, but she couldn't persuade him. She doesn't like you at all, she just treats you as a meal ticket. Aya Ueda tried to wake up Ikeda Isamu. How is that possible? She called me brother Chigu the day before yesterday. Chigu Yang retorted with a look of fascination on his face. 80,000 taels once, I'm calling you too, believe it or not, I can make you bankrupt. Aya Ueda said expressionlessly, calling me, brother, will not save you a piece of meat. You again. Forget it, I'll lend it to you. Remember to leave some money for yourself. Kimura sighed and finally lent the money to Ikeda Isamu. Hearing that Kimura Shirin was willing to lend money, Ikeda Isamu couldn't care less about the weird Ueda Aya, and quickly thanked Kimura Shirin and left the office. Miyu Uexin thought that if the Hokage also made a short video and made a series of videos about Icon Isamu's daily life in the office, it might be popular, so he wouldn't be short of money. After complaining in her heart, Miyu quickly concentrated on practicing calligraphy. It was not until class was approaching that Miyu stopped writing and went to the classroom. As soon as Miyu entered the classroom, the students in the classroom began to get excited. That's great, it's Miyu-sensei who is here to teach ninjutsu. After taking teacher Muyu's class last time, my transformation skills are much more refined than before. I hope I will focus on the clone technique this time. Miyu glanced at it, it was good, but Obito was not here again. 5 minutes after Miyu started class, Obito rushed into the classroom in a sprinting state. Obito was dumbfounded when he saw Muyu standing on the podium. He wondered why he was not late every day, so why did he feel that every time he was late, he would be bumped into Muyu's substitute class? Wouldn't this lower his image in Muyu's heart? Teacher Muyu, Obito wanted to explain something. Sit down. Muyu motioned for Obito to sit down, and then began to teach the clone technique as requested by most students. Mr. Chitani, why didn't you inform Mr. Muyu earlier that he was coming to take over the class? Obito complained, clenching his fists. During the break, Muyu called Obito and Metkai out and asked about the test results. Passed, Obito and Metkai said together with their heads held high. Muyu asked carefully and found that the two of them were really stuck in passing the test. The average score was 60, and they just passed 30. I don't know why, but the results this time are better than before. 25 points was enough to pass, Obito said, scratching his head. He also felt that it was very extreme. Maybe it's because Teacher Muyu came to take over the class, Metkai said. Even someone like him, who has a hard time learning, can clearly feel the difference between Muyu and other teachers. Then shouldn't it be higher next time? Obito was dumbfounded. He couldn't do it any higher. Passing is my most basic requirement for you. If you can't do it, then you have to listen to my arrangements. Muyu showed a kind smile. If it fails, the reward will probably be even lower. Obito and Metkai looked at Muyu's smile, and once again thought of the terror of being dominated by brush scrolls. They shuddered for a moment and then quickly said that they would pass next time. Muyu returned home, wrote out the report, and submitted it. Not long after, a reply came from the root. There were 3 scrolls placed in front of Muyu. He opened them one by one. The first scroll contained money. Muyu counted it and found that the total was 200,000 taels. Muyu put the money away. The more the better in any world. Ninjas are also big spenders, whether it is various ninja tools or secret medicines needed for training, they all cost a lot of money. Then he opened the second scroll, which was AC level ninjutsu, fire release and flame bullet. This is a ninjutsu that Muyu has not drawn yet, but Muyu has already mastered a lot of fire escapes, both large scale and flexible, so there is no need to waste time practicing this fire bomb. Muyu picked up the last scroll and opened it. This was Danzo's reply to the report. Danzo first praised Muyu for his work completion. He became an excellent teacher so quickly and was praised by the 3rd generation. So he was very satisfied, rewarded Muyu and hoped that Muyu. Skipping Danzo's Pua paragraph, Muyu looked directly at Danzo's requirements. Become Sarutobi Asama's tutor, gain his trust, and become someone he respects. This was Danzo's reply to Mugetsu's report. Muyu put away the ninjutsu scroll, and then burned all the other 2 scrolls. Although he didn't practice, after all, he got it from Danzo's free prostitute, so it would be a pity to burn it. This old boy Danzo has never given up on the position of Hokage. Muyu sighed. It was obvious that Danzo had some thoughts about the 3rd generation's youngest son. But it doesn't matter to Muyu, as long as she can spare a few hours on the weekend. If Asama's talent can reach S, he can accept a disciple. He still has an empty apprentice position. How about selling the house in the main city? Muyu thought of something. Naturally, the original owner did not live near the sparsely populated southern forest from the beginning. In fact, he had a house in the main city of Konoha, which was left to him by his parents. However, in order to hide his identity, he built a house in the southern forest. Although he didn't live there much, the original owner used to go back every year to clean the house in the main city. Muyu thought that since he couldn't live in it, he might as well sell it. He remembered that the house was in a good location and might be worth a lot of money. Then he could use the money to buy secret medicine and practice. Although there is help from the system, there is only one point at which you can improve yourself. Thinking of this, Muyu got up and headed to the main city of Konoha, planning to look at the house and clean it for sale. Muyu found the house according to the memory of the original owner. When he was about to take the key and go in, he found a blonde figure walking out of the house next to him. "Hello, are you a new resident?" Minato Namikaze greeted curiously. It had been several months since he bought this house, and this was the first time he saw someone entering the house on the right. Minato Namikaze thought a new neighbor had moved in. When Muyu turned around, Namikaze Minato looked at the blonde hair and blue eyes, and instantly remembered that he had met Miyu before in the library. It's not that his superhuman memory remembers everyone he meets, but Minato also has blonde hair and blue eyes, and the gentle smile on Miyu's face makes Minato feel like Miyu has met another version of him. So impressed. No, this is my home, but for some reasons, I moved out and rarely come back. Miyu greeted with a smile. He feels that there is no need to sell the house, and it is good to keep it. Before, I was worried that I couldn't get close to the sealing technique knowledge with Minato, but now it's here. They are neighbors, and logically, Minato moved in later. Minato, I'm here to find you. At this time, a vibrant female voice sounded. Hey, Minato-san never told me that you have a brother who looks quite similar to you. Kushina looked at Moyu, who also had blonde hair and blue eyes with a gentle smile on her face, and couldn't help but joke. In terms of overall facial features, the two of them actually don't look alike, but the same dazzling blonde hair and that smile really give Kushina a sense of brotherhood. I'm sorry, this is my girlfriend. As you can see, she is a little too lively. Please forgive me, Minato said to Miyu with an apologetic look. This is my neighbor. Minato wanted to say Miyu's name, but found that he didn't know his name yet. My name is Hanyu Miyu. Miyu introduced herself. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Kushina, your name is quite nice. Kushina hugged Minato from behind and stuck her head out to introduce herself. Hello, my name is Namikaze Minato. Minato said with a smile on his face as he pulled Kushina off of him. Thank you, your fiery red hair is also very beautiful. Miyu replied as she opened the door. Kushina's eyes lit up instantly, she gave a thumbs up and said, okay, you are very discerning. She felt that Miyu could talk. When Miyu opened the door, the smoke and dust hidden in the gap also filled the air. Miyu glanced inside. It wasn't particularly dirty, but it was too dusty because it hadn't been occupied for too long. Sorry, I'm afraid I can't entertain you. I have to clean up first. Miyu turned around and said. Then we won't disturb you. Upon seeing this, Minato took Kushina back home. Miyu looked at Kushina's leaving back and gave an appraisal. Name, Kushina. Chakra, 150,000. Potential, SS. Evaluation, good at sealing techniques, possessing a huge amount of special chakra that ordinary people cannot hope to achieve. Miyu could only say that the amount of chakra was enough to make him jealous. As for the chakra with bracketed question marks, this was the first time Miyu had seen it. He felt that Kushina should have become the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. The 9 tails inside had not been identified, so it was a question mark. Kushina's potential is indeed a bit scary, and the double S potential is the highest potential Miyu has seen so far. But combined with the original work, Miyu guessed that at least one S was brought by the 9 tails in the body. Without the 9 tails, Kushina would fall into S potential. Otherwise, there is no need for the 9 tails to have double S potential. Kushina would be killed indiscriminately if she develops normally, and the third generation and Minato would only have one S. Miyu used the technique of multiple shadow clones to separate 10 shadow clones, and then asked the clones to start cleaning the house. Miyu once again lamented that Tobarama's genius could actually develop such a convenient ninjutsu as a shadow clone. After cleaning the house, Miyu bought some daily necessities and put them in it. He was not in a hurry to visit Minato's house to exchange feelings. He planned to come and live here occasionally and become friends with Minato naturally. He opened the window and began to enrich the training plan for his disciples while feeling the evening breeze. Both Metkai and Obito, who did not get first place in their grade, need targeted intensive training. As for Shisui, Miyu is ready to improve his chakra control ability, which will not only improve his current combat effectiveness but also lay the foundation for learning illusions in the future. The next day, Miyu went to the Hokage building after finishing her classes in the morning. After all, Hiruzen Sarutobi was the third Hokage, and it was impossible to wait for his reply in the school office every day, so Hiruzen Sarutobi told Miyu to go to the Hokage building to find him if he had the idea of being a tutor. Miyu was stopped when he arrived on the floor of the Hokage's office, but Miyu had already expected it and was let go after he simply said that the third generation asked him to come. Miyu knocked on the wooden door of the Hokage's office. Third generation lord, I've thought about it. Miu Yu pointed out her identity and purpose of coming. It's Hanyu, come in. Sandai's voice came from inside the door. Miu Yu opened the door and went in, and was surprised to find that not only the third generation was inside, but Minato was also there. Minato was also a little surprised to see Miu Yu come in. He didn't expect that the new neighbor he met yesterday would be able to meet him in the Hokage's office today. This is Hanyu-sensei from our ninja school. His teaching ability is particularly strong. Even I can't help but want to ask him to be Asuma's tutor. Sandai put down his pipe and introduced with a smile. Immediately afterwards, Sandai noticed the expressions of the two people and asked, "Do you know Minato?" Minato nodded and said, "We are neighbors, Hanyu's house is right next to mine." "That's really fate. Minato Hanyu, you can communicate more. You are all outstanding ninjas in your respective fields." Sarutobi Hiruzen praised. "No, I'm just trying my best," Miu Yu said modestly. Minato also left with a humble word. He had a good feeling about Miu Yu, but the Hokage's office was not a good place to chat. Miu Yu had the same idea, the place was not suitable, so he did not communicate too much with Minato. "Sandaime-sama, I thought about it carefully after I went back. If I arrange my time properly, I can spare a few hours on weekends to teach Asuma." Miu Yu said his answer. "Okay, now that Hanyu is here to teach me, I don't have to worry about the growth of Asuma's child," Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a smile, his words showing his trust in Miu Yu. "I will try my best to live up to your expectations, third-generation master, and teach Asuma with all my strength." Miu Yu showed a grateful expression, indicating that she must take tutoring seriously. What followed was a more conventional discussion about salary. The third generation was quite generous and offered a price of 2,000 taels an hour. They would teach for a total of 8 hours over 2 days on the weekend and get paid once a week. Miu Yu set the time to start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and end at 5 o'clock. Today was Friday, and Miu Yu had no classes in the afternoon, so he went directly to the small river where he usually practiced, where Ji Shui was practicing fire escape with Miu Yu's shadow clone. After he won the first place in the whole grade in that exam without any pressure, Shisui followed Miu Yu's suggestion and used his shadow clone to go to school, and then came to Miu Yu to practice during school time. After Miu Yu arrived, he cancelled the shadow clone. Zishui also temporarily stopped practicing after noticing the arrival of Miu Yu's true body, and greeted Miu Yu, "Teacher Miu Yu." Miu Yu nodded, took out a square towel and handed it to Zishui with a smile. "Let's take a rest and wipe the sweat." Zishui thanked him and took the square towel to wipe the sweat off his forehead and neck, and sat under the big tree with Miu Yu. Miu Yu gave Zishui an appraisal. Name: Uchiha Shisui. Chakra: 580. Potential: SS. Compared with a month ago, chakra has improved a lot. On the one hand, the intensity of training has increased, and on the other hand, Shisui's body has gradually developed, and the growth rate will be faster in the future. What makes Miu Yu a little dissatisfied is that this panel is too simple and can only show chakra and potential. After resting for a while, Miu Yu said, "Shisui, starting from today, the training plan will change, and we will start practicing the teleportation technique and enhance our chakra control ability." Since Shisui was able to earn the title of Shushui Shisui during the Third Ninja War, Miu Yu felt that there was nothing wrong with teaching Shisui Point Shisui technique first. Yes. Zishui nodded without raising any objection. After a month of studying, he had full confidence in Miu Yu's teaching ability. Instantaneous body technique is not actually the name of a ninjutsu, but a large category of ninjutsu. Any technique that can achieve the effect of instantaneous body can be called instantaneous body technique. On the higher end, time and space ninjutsu like Flying Thunder God can also be considered a body blinking technique, as can Thunder Escape Chakra mode that activates the body to increase speed. However, Miu Yu naturally cannot fly the Thunder God and Thunder Escape Chakra modes, and the teleportation technique he masters is the most common type of teleportation technique. The seal allows chakra to gather in the legs and then explode, strengthening the body to achieve high-speed movement. The disadvantage is that if used too many times, the leg muscles will be tired and injured. Although it is just an ordinary D-level physical skill, it is very practical in battle, whether it is a surprise attack or a retreat. Jisui's talent still did not disappoint Miu Yu. Although he had not yet opened the Sharingan, his powerful talent allowed Jishui to learn the teleportation technique directly after Mu Yu completed a demonstration and explanation. When the ninja school was over, Metkai and Obito soon came to the training ground. You two, don't be in a hurry to practice. I have formulated a special 2-month training plan for you. Mu Yu stopped Metkai and Obito, who were about to practice. Hearing Mu Yu's gentle voice, Obito thought Mu Yu was going to teach something new, so he looked at Mu Yu expectantly and asked. Teacher Mu Yu, are you going to teach a new powerful ninjutsu? You haven't even mastered the powerful dragon fire and the powerful fire ball. How can I teach you the new ninjutsu? Mu Yu shook her head. What kind of special training is that? Obito was a little disappointed to hear that there was no new ninjutsu to learn. The training will allow you to defeat Hinata Fire Gate in the next final exam. Mu Yu said with a smile. Obito, you are too weak in taijutsu. Not to mention Hyuga Kamen, even if you fight with the current Kai can make you unable to cast a single ninjutsu, so you must strengthen your training in taijutsu. Hearing Mu Yu's words, Obito wanted to say something, but found that he could not refute, because he lost the battles with Hinata Huomen and Metkai just like Mu Yu said. Although the battle of ninjas sometimes seems to be no different from that of mages, if you really want to treat yourself as a fort mage without practicing physical skills, this is the fastest way to die on the battlefield. Generally, strong ninjas can more or less practice it, technique. As for Kai, what you have to do is to strengthen your strengths. You have to become faster, so fast that even if Hinata Kamen's Byakugan sees your movements clearly, he won't have time to dodge. It is true that Byakugan's observation ability is strong, but Metkai does not need to be faster than Byakugan's observation, he only needs to be stronger than Hyuga Kamen's reaction. From now on, you two will have half an hour of actual combat every hour you practice. You can only use taijutsu, not ninjutsu. Ah, you can't use ninjutsu. Obito was dumbfounded. He couldn't beat him in the first place, but he couldn't use ninjutsu. Isn't this a pure beating? If you don't want to be defeated by Hinata Fire Gate next time, then don't use ninjutsu. Mu Yu replied. Obito thought about the bragging in front of Nohara-rin, and even though he had foreseen the miserable training life in the future, he could only nod his head with tears in his eyes. A new round of training has begun, and Mu Yu is wondering if the reward for increasing the disciple's strength will be triggered after this special training is over. It has not been triggered once yet, and she doesn't know to what extent it must be improved. Early on Saturday morning, Obito, Shisui and the other three began to train according to Mu Yu's requirements. Obito first learned the basic moves of taijutsu from Mu Yu. After practicing for an hour, Mu Yu asked Obito to rest, handed Obito a bottle of water, and wiped his sweat. Obito suddenly felt something bad. Although Mu Yu was a good teacher, he would not be so considerate under normal circumstances. It was possible to hand him water, and at most he would provide a square towel to wipe sweat. Obito, I think you still have a lot of potential that has not been unleashed. Mu Yu smiled and put the bottle of water that Obito had not finished drinking up on the ground. No, I feel that my potential has been completely stimulated by you, teacher. Obito felt that just after wiping the hot sweat off his forehead, cold sweat broke out again. You still underestimate yourself. Mu Yu shook her head and said. How about this? When fighting Kai, you only need to be hit once, and then you can do one more question during the break. Presumably this should be able to fully stimulate your potential. Even if it fails, your theoretical scores will be improved if you do too many questions. Quote, Teacher, this is not good. If I get hit hundreds of times by then, it doesn't matter who I am doing the questions. I'm afraid you will get tired from doing the questions. Obito said as if he was thinking about Mu Yu. Obito was also forced to be anxious, and his speaking skills improved in his anxiety. For Obito, if he was asked to study questions and papers, it would be better to have a passionate fight with Metkai, which was too tortuous. Obito, I'm very happy that you are worried about teacher's health. Mu Yu showed a pleased expression. Just when Obito thought he was going to survive, Mu Yu's words changed. I guess that you are such a good boy, so I prepared a lot of questions for you in advance, so you don't have to worry about running out of questions. Mu Yu took out a stack of test papers with a smile on her face, indicating that there were enough questions. Is it enough? Not enough for me to let the shadow clone come out again. Miu Yu asked with a smile. Enough, enough. Obito shook his head wildly and waved his hands. He looked at the pile in Miu Yu's hand that was almost exhausted. The sun was clearly shining brightly today, and Miu Yu's smile was warm, but Obito felt a cold air rushing from the soles of his feet to his forehead. Miu Yu's side was blocked, so Obito decided to save the country by taking a curveball. Since he couldn't avoid doing the questions, he should do them less. Thinking of this, Obito winked at Metkai and motioned for some water. Metkai saw Obito's signal, showed his shining white teeth, and gave Obito a thumbs up with a relaxed smile. As for Kai, if you miss the mark at once, do 50 questions. If you hit the mark, you will have to do one less question. You can reduce it to 40 questions at most. Miu Yu continued. Metkai's expression suddenly changed, and he gave Obito a thumbs up again with a serious expression. You want to try your best. You don't want this kind of thing. Obito put his head in his hands and wailed. He could already see a large number of questions coming towards him. For the sake of youth, we must try our best to reduce the questions to the minimum. Metkai felt that he was already on fire. Obito didn't want to do the questions, and neither did he. In the ensuing battle, Metkai punched hard and chased Obito at 120% speed. Obito, who didn't want to do the questions, also had explosive potential. After being hit more than a dozen times, Obito's steps became much more agile. Miu Yu saw that both of them had made such great progress and nodded happily. Isn't there still a lot of potential that has not been stimulated? When both of them lose their strength, the battle will be over. Obito was hit more than 30 times and needed to answer more than 30 questions, while Metkai only had to answer a dozen. Miu Yu feels that the effect is very good. If he continues to practice like this, maybe within 2 months, Hinata Firegate will no longer be their opponent. It's a pity that Nohara Rin's talent is not good. If Nohara Rin is also accepted as a disciple, it will be easy to stimulate Obito. Miu Yu thought. In order to keep a low profile, he was reluctant to bring non-disciples to practice together. In fact, there is a better candidate, and that is Kakashi. Nohara Rin could only stimulate Obito alone. If Kakashi was there, Obito and Metkai would be stimulated together. Kakashi's talent is enough, but it's a pity that Kakashi is unlikely to be his student, because Kakashi was promoted to Chunin 2 years ago. Miu Yu accompanied them to practice until noon, and had lunch with the 3 of them. In the end, leaving 2 shadow clones behind, Miu Yu went to the home of the 3rd Hokage, preparing to start tutoring. Perhaps because she was still at work, Miu Yu did not see the figure of Hiruzen Sarutobi. She only saw a middle-aged woman with a single ponytail, who was Hiruzen Sarutobi's wife, Bawako Sarutobi. Lord Baipahu, Miu Yu greeted. Are you the Hanyu sensei Hiruzen mentioned? Sarutobi Bawako recalled the appearance described by the 3rd generation and then asked. Miu Yu nodded. Asuma is waiting for you in the backyard. Sarutobi Bawako pointed out the direction for Miu Yu, and then reminded. Asuma, this child is a bit rebellious. Mr. Hanyu, please be more considerate. If he is really undisciplined, just tell me. I can, but I have some special skills for dealing with rebellious students. Miu Yu replied with a smile, and then walked in the direction pointed by Sarutobi Lake Biwa. Walking to the backyard, Miu Yu saw a child of about 9 years old lying against a tree with a piece of grass in his mouth, looking like a rogue. Miu Yu gave an appraisal first. Name: Sarutobi Asuma. Chakra: 1100. Potential: A+. Looking at the potential of A+, Miu Yu shook her head secretly. If it were S, he might be tempted. Forget it, A+, the potential is 1 notch lower. Noticing Miu Yu's arrival, Asuma spat out the grass in her mouth and asked directly without standing up. Are you the Hanyu Mozuki who is coming to teach me? Before Miu Yu could answer, Asuma quickly said. I said, if you can't let me surpass the old man who is the Sandaime Hokage, then you can just leave. It's boring. Asuma felt that she had to give this tutor a little power and gain the initiative. Just when Asuma was wondering how Miu Yu would respond, Miu Yu shook her head and said. Of course that's not possible. Then let's go. Asuma waved his hand and lay down. He didn't believe that Miu Yu would just leave like this. Okay, I'll leave now and tell Master Baipahu that you don't need a tutor. Miu Yu turned around and prepared to leave. Seeing that Miu Yu really looked like she was about to leave, Asma felt a question mark in her mind. Why the hell didn't you play according to the routine? Shouldn't he be trying to persuade him to stop messing around? Why did he just leave? Hey, don't leave yet. Asma stood up like a carp and called Muyu to stop. The teacher was angry before he started teaching. He would definitely be scolded by his old mother later. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.